All right, so welcome to the Fresh Perspective. It's episode 2. I'm here with Michael Almonte, aka Lieutenant Mike, and we're here once again just to highlight some amazing things he's doing and to put some different perspectives in the air because, like I said recently, there's just a lot of bad ideas going on out there. So, welcome to the show, Mike. I appreciate you coming by, stopping by.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. So, if people don't know who you are, who are listening now, give a little introduction about yourself.
So I'm Mike Almonte. They call me Lieutenant Mike. I've been with the police department for 19 years.
NYPD, right?
NYPD, yep. I grew up in Corona, Queens, which is a rough neighborhood. I grew up not liking cops very much.
Isn't that funny how that works out?
Yeah, I got harassed as a kid, and had a lot of negative interactions with police officers. The stuff you hear, getting thrown up against the wall, being disrespected, cursed at, and I just couldn't figure out why, because it wasn't like I was doing anything to instigate that type of reaction. But I grew a hatred for cops. And before that, I had always wanted to become a police officer before those interactions. I would watch Cops on Saturdays, like clockwork, every Saturday. The TV show. I'd watch Cops, and it always intrigued me. The profession always intrigued me because it was something different every single day.
Yeah, exciting.
Correct. So, one day I was traveling with a friend of mine, and we got pulled over, and he had some unpaid tickets, so he had a warrant for his arrest. So we get pulled over, and one cop is like being cool, and the other one's like, now we're taking them in.
Looking back on it, are they playing good cop, bad cop, or are they just...
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It was like the movies.
Yeah.
And so eventually he gets arrested, and we all go back to the precinct. It was our first time having someone in our circle be arrested. And
how old are you at this point?
I was like 17, 18.
Okay.
And the good cop wind up coming around the block after, like a week after, and he introduced me to a second guy whose name is Jason Angevine. He's a retired detective, and that cop took me under his wing. I guess he saw something inside of me that sparked his interest to want to mentor me.
Did you mention to him at all in that interaction that you wanted to be a cop at that point, or no?
I don't remember. I don't recall, but I think as I got to open up, I definitely shared that with him.
Yeah.
And so he started to invite me to play basketball with his coworkers, and I got to see a different side of police, like the human side.
Yeah.
That not everyone gets to see. And he inspired me to take the test. He would always say, Mike, you're going to become a cop. You're going to be a boss one day. He'd always like sprinkle these seeds, and he would actually water those seeds. And, 2 years later, I wound up, 2 or 3 years later, I wound up, getting hired. And in January of 2003, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. There was a car parked outside my house, and it was Jason Angevine, and he was picking me up to take me to my police graduation. And I remember sitting in that front seat and looking in the side view mirror, and I was in my dress blues, proud as can be. And I just remember him saying, "You're going to be a boss one day." And I pictured myself as a boss the day I'm graduating. So fast forward 19 years, and I owe a lot to him. The way he inspired me, the way he changed my views, my perception of cops,
and
all
now
those.
You are a lieutenant.
And now I am, yeah. I made sergeant after 5 years. And I made lieutenant in 2013. I've been a lieutenant for 7 years now. And it's been an amazing run.
And all because of one positive interaction with a cop that stemmed from a negative interaction with the cop.
Correct.
That's amazing.
Correct.
So what you said is something interesting that I wanted to touch on real quick, was that the human element of cops, which is funny because in these ridiculous polarized times, it seems like cops are this just blanket villain in every story. And obviously, anyone with a brain knows that there's good cops, there's bad cops, like there's good doctors, there's bad doctors, the profession is such a overarching major category. how many cops are there in the United States? Got to be hundreds of thousands.
Over
right?
800,000.
I mean, it's about over 1 million people. So obviously there's a large spectrum of people in there. But it's almost like when you're a kid and you have a teacher and you're in 5th grade and then you run into them at the deli and it blows your mind. It's almost like you can't conceptualize them outside of the job.
Correct.
And you lose sight of the fact that that's a regular person who has a family, who has hobbies, interests outside the job, and they take that uniform off at night and go to sleep.
Absolutely.
And it's the same mentality that people have a hard time detaching the person from the job, and they completely just objectify is the wrong word, but they dehumanize the position.
Yeah.
To the point where somebody who, for the most part, on merit alone, just on being a cop, deserves respect for the position in society they take. And instead, it's almost the complete opposite. It's like right off the bat, they get no respect in 2020.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating to me.
I can speak on both sides. Like I've been there where I painted all cops with a broad stroke. And I just disliked every single cop.
As a kid.
I stereotyped every cop that wore a uniform. I thought they were a bad guy. And it was because of my experiences. So I can speak from both sides. And knowing what I know now is that, like you said, there's a ton of great police officers out there.
I mean, 800,000 people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a major city.
Yeah.
You could fill up.
Yeah. What happens is bad news sells.
Yes.
So you only see the bad. And that's part of the reason why I started my social media account. It was at the height of police-involved shootings. And I just felt like the public needed to see a different side to police, like I did as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I started posting about my interactions with the community, my positive interactions, even negative ones. I mean, if you look on my page, that sometimes, I have dialogue with people that totally hate cops. And I'm okay with that because not everyone's going to like you because of your profession. So I'm open to it. And I kept my page public and I've met some pretty amazing people because of that.
Well, that's how I came across you. I found you the same exact way. I saw, you'd popped up a few times on people's pages and it's going like viral to some extent of just, I see you playing in the park with kids. And I'm like, this is what the fuck they need to show. I'm like, every time someone gets shot, and it's horrible, don't get me wrong, whether they deserved it or not is irrelevant. But that's the only time you see them. It's like if they only reported on car accidents when red cars got into accidents.
Yeah.
And after 12 days, the news just kept telling you about red cars crashing into things. By the 13th day, you're like, what the fuck's going on with these red cars?
Yeah.
So if all they're showing you is the bad things and they're ignoring the millions of interactions that go smoothly or just neutral, then of course people are going to get a skewed interpretation of what the job's like and how cops are actually interacting with people. How could they not?
Correct.
So, I mean, most of it's the media's fault. And that's why I wanted to have you on, because people need to realize that police officers are regular people. If anything, the job they do is harder than most of our jobs.
Yeah.
And they deserve the respect for that until proven otherwise. It can't be, they're scumbags until they're proven to be honorable. That's not how you go about labeling any groups of people.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Corona, you said?
Yep.
By Parkside?
On the north side of Corona. So Parkside's on the south side.
That's my favorite Italian restaurant.
Yeah. I haven't been there, but I've heard it's great food.
What what was the demographic of your area growing up?
So on the north side of Corona, it's mostly Dominican, South American. On the south side, it was mostly Italian.
Yeah.
And now it's just mixed. It's like a melting pot.
Yeah, now it's a melting pot. My father had grown up in that area for a while, or worked in that area for a while. So I used to be there as a kid all the time.
Yeah, I hung out there all the time too.
An ice shop over there.
Yep.
Was it
Lemon Ice King?
Yes, right. That's right. From the King of Queens.
Yeah.
So you're 17. I'm sorry, you're 20 years old when you joined the force?
21.
21.
Yeah.
And were you on the beat at first?
Yeah.
How'd that go?
I loved it. I mean, it was, like I said, I chose this profession because it was something new every single day. Like, there's no 2 days alike. So,
were you working in Corona?
No, I was working in Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn.
What part?
Dumbo,
yeah,
that area, Fulton Mall area.
Yeah,
I worked that.
That's funny. So yeah, I mean, we probably ran by each other at Fulton Mall. I used to go there all the time.
I probably chased you.
We used to go there and buy fake True Religion jeans on the tables they had outside the stores. Go
Fulton
buy.
Street.
Yeah, Fulton J Street and over there. That mall, that area is intense.
Yeah, I loved it though. I definitely connected with that neighborhood. I can go there today and get love from the people that you mentioned. people that were, selling, knockoff gear. I mean, I always showed them respect. They reciprocated that respect. And, if they saw me, they would keep me moving, and there were times that we had to do what we had to do. And they understood that. But
yeah, I mean that's the whole game, and I think that a lot of people lose they lose sight of this, and I want to get your opinion on my perspective on this. So the cops and robbers, let's just for broad generalization, that's that dynamic, right? Where these guys are doing something that's either completely illegal or maybe slightly not right. If it's counterfeit jeans, whatever it is, setting up shop on the corner. So obviously their job is to avoid you. Yep. Your job is to catch them. Yep. And both people in the game understand the rules of the game, yep. Right? But what I think people lose sight of in all kinds of people that are involved in, anything that may be illegal is that without the cops enforcing the law that they're trying to escape, they don't have a job. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is the only reason why those guys are able to make money is because what they are doing is illegal, which makes it profitable. If it wasn't illegal, you'd have giant corporations who would fill that gap, and you would no longer be relevant in that space. That goes for drug dealers. That goes for anything. You think that you're that good of a businessman, or is it because you're taking a risk that normal people don't? And the risk that comes with that is strictly from the enforcement that police put on there. Correct. So if anything, you should thank a cop that you have your job. And as long as everyone works in their parameters, you got to have respect for each other. I think that's accurate.
No, that's definitely accurate. 100%. I mean, it's a game. It's like cat and mouse game. Yep. That's all it is. And I treated it as such. I didn't take it personal, but I just made sure. I worked on Fulton Street for a long time. And
how long were you on the beat?
5 years.
So people don't know what on the beat is. I'm assuming most people do know, but you're walking the street. I mean, that is the most interactive position in police force. That is literally on the street. Most of the time, not even in the car, right?
Yeah. So as a downtown, we called it downtown post. I was in downtown for probably 3 out of my 5 years as a police officer. So I would walk up and down the street, and I got to know the business owners. I got to know the players, and it was probably one of the most memorable times of my career, just because I got that feeling of community, right? Like your boots are on the ground, so you have no choice but to interact.
Yeah.
I mean, you could stand there and say nothing, but I'm a people person. I like to get to know people, and some of those guys that you bought True Religion jeans from were amazing guys.
I'm sure they were.
A few years ago, one of them actually ran into me at a concert in Fort Greene Park, I think it was, and he remembered me. He gave me a pound, and he was like, "Man, I got so much respect." He called his boy. He was like, "I got so much respect for this guy, man. He used to let me rock." And he reminded me of why I took this job, and it was to be able to give people a chance at whatever it is that they're doing. If you're not killing someone, I'm gonna, obviously I'm not gonna let everyone break the law, but if you're respectful, if I see you and I know what you're doing, but you keep it moving, I'm not chasing you. I'm not chasing you down to try and, get an arrest. That's not what I'm about. I mean, if you show me the respect and you keep it moving, then it's all good. But I always give them the warning. Like, listen, if I catch you,
this is my job.
Yeah, this is my job.
Yeah,
you're forcing me. Yeah. To now do something. But if you're smart about it and I don't see you, then it's all good.
I think more people need to take that approach as well. I'm sure you can agree. A lot of people, like I said, they want to make it a black and white thing. It's just not that simple. There's a human, X factor here is the dynamic that everyone has their own personality. And then you got to realize that, cops have bad days too, right? Something happens at home. Now this guy's on the job and maybe something that normally you would let go. You're in a bad fucking mood and someone does something right in front of you, something stupid. And then you react doing your job and people want to get mad about it.
Yeah. There's definitely a human element. And, a lot of times when you're out on the field and out in the field and people commit whatever traffic infractions in front of you, sometimes you'll get an attitude from the driver as if you did something. Yeah. You're just enforcing
the audacity.
Yeah, you're just enforcing the law. And I honestly feel like I would tell all my cops when I got promoted, like there's enough a-holes out there that you can give normal people, a break. It's called discretion.
Yeah.
right? Like if you're respectful and you just listen, you didn't see the stop sign, not the stop sign, but you know what I mean.
No parking sign.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
There's enough
They didn't
people out there
signal.
that don't react appropriately that you can give discretion to the others.
I think it'd be a big help too for police and civilian interactions if they designated traffic interactions to like a totally different department. Like I feel like especially here in Long Island, Nassau County, you have the same people that respond to a break-in are the same people that pulling you over for a stop sign. I feel like a lot of the bad connotation that people have for police is from their negative traffic interactions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if they took, that, in Manhattan, I had the meter maid, they call it, I mean,
Yep,
the people that walk
yep.
around and give tickets to that. I don't think they even carry guns in the city.
No, they're unarmed.
Why don't we...
You're never getting a break from one of those.
No, never. No,
Never.
never. I come back to my car and there's a goddamn orange envelope every time on my windshield wiper, which is fine. But I think if we designated that division to like in regular cops didn't do that at all, then maybe they would be seen more as like in light of firefighters are. Like no one says fuck the FDNY. Never, because they're only there responding when someone calls for help.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe that would help if change the dynamic if the only time you ran into armed police officers is when someone called for help. And then maybe they weren't proactively looking into traffic situations. Maybe that would alleviate some of the negative, energy in the air from the interactions to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, definitely FDNY is loved by everyone.
Crazy, right?
But
paramedics, no one else says fuck the paramedics, right?
But the problem with our profession is that we have to arrest people.
Yeah, true.
And if you have a family member that's been arrested, it hurts. If you've been arrested, it hurts. And so we'll never get away from that, being the hero type thing.
Yeah, I guess you're going to be the villain in someone's story no matter what.
Yeah.
But people need to remember that, I mean, there was some crazy stat, I forget what it was, but exactly the percentage, but the super high percentage of the times where an arrest happens, it is because... How rare is it that you see a crime unfold in front of your eyes? You're called to the scene majority of the time.
Majority of the time you're called, correct.
Yeah, so it's like people are losing sight of the fact that there's a victim in that situation. Mm-hmm. People are making the perpetrator into a victim, once the guy gets a little roughed up or whatever happens in the arrest itself. But they're forgetting there was a real victim. That's the reason you're there to begin with.
Yeah, we get called,
somebody calls, say, help me. Yeah. I just got punched in the face. I just got robbed. I just got my car broken into. I just had a gun pulled on me.
Yeah.
And they lose sight of that victim. And all of a sudden the news turns the perpetrator into a victim. Sometimes they are a victim, but most of the time it seems like they just become portrayed as a victim. And then it automatically makes the cop the bad guy.
Yeah.
Again.
Like I said, bad news sells.
I guess so, man. But that's why I wanted to have you here. I want to talk about some of the good things. So I like my last guest, Wayne. Shout out PCNY. I got my PCNY beanie on right now. Wayne, I'm going to do my best to get there at 6 a.m. in Yonkers tomorrow. Jesus Christ.
I won't be there at 6 a.m. I'll be there at 8 a.m.
Okay, I know 8 a.m. was on the table. So I'll be there at 8 a.m. also to help with the turkeys. I like, Wayne, you do a lot of philanthropic work, not only with giving back as far as, food drives, stuff like that. I know you're involved with the turkey drive. So maybe you can explain tomorrow. I'm actually I honestly don't know what's going on tomorrow. Wayne just said show up, so I was going to. But what exactly is tomorrow's event in Yonkers?
So tomorrow is our annual Thanksgiving turkey giveaway.
Okay, that's tomorrow's the official one.
Yeah, so tomorrow the delivery comes in.
Okay.
Into Yonkers, and then everyone that gets turkeys from PCNY will meet at this location at a specific time. So my time is 9 a.m. I'm going to get there a little early. That's why I said 8 a.m. But he's probably using you to help unload the muscles.
Yeah.
He's having you unload the truck. But tomorrow's the big day. And a lot of my philanthropic work is powered by PCNY.
How many of the turkeys are going to drop off tomorrow? I know he's doing 20,000 this year.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm assuming all 20,000 are being dropped off tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah.
God damn it. Yeah, I'm gonna need some help. So hopefully we get this episode out tonight so that people can see it with enough time to make plans tomorrow to help out. If you do want to help tomorrow, do you know the location?
I have it on my phone. I gotta.
Okay.
It's different locations, so they're giving turkeys to different organizations, and then those people.
Spreading out throughout the boroughs.
So my event is in Corona, Queens.
Gotcha.
Tomorrow at 12 p.m. at a park that I grew up playing basketball in, and when I went to work in Brooklyn, I was doing a lot of work in Brooklyn, playing ball with the youth and just taking me back to when I was a kid and interacting with the cops. But anyways, I met Oren through some of the work that I was doing.
Oren's Wayne's brother.
Correct. At a book bag drive in East New York. And from there, we've just been working together ever since. But I was doing a lot of my work in Brooklyn, and it hit me one day, like, I'm doing all this work for Brooklyn, but I'm not doing anything
my own hood, my own neighborhood.
Yeah, for my own hood where I grew up.
Yeah.
So I called one of my boys, and Steve from Iconic Sports Lab, amazing human being. I look up to this guy. I remember watching Steve play ball at Linden Park and thinking, man, this guy plays just like Magic Johnson. He was like one of my inspirations to play basketball. But anyways, called him up. I shared my vision with him, and I said, Steve, we got to do something at our park. And our first turkey giveaway, we gave about 500 turkeys away. And then the very next year, we gave about 800 away.
What year did you start this?
This is my third year doing it.
Okay, so 2018 you started.
So we're planning on giving about 1,000 tomorrow. Feeding
Growth
1,000.
is amazing.
Yeah, feeding 1,000 families. So double the amount that we did 2 years ago.
Yeah, in 2 years. And I'm sure it'll go up from here.
Yeah. All powered by PCNY. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do half of the things I do if it wasn't for Wayne and his family and Talia and Oren.
They're all amazing people. I know I said it a bunch of times, and if you have a problem with me saying it again, too fucking bad, because what they do is amazing, and I can't say it enough. Everybody in this world looks out for themselves, and it's amazing to see these people so dedicated to making other people's lives better. And
it's genuine.
It's amazing. Like the homeless food drives, the turkey drives, the book bag drives, the philanthropic work is incredible. And I also saw that you take it one step further. Something I wanted to talk to you about and also highlight is that mentor program.
Oh yeah.
So obviously the charity work is amazing and it does a lot of good, but it's almost the next step. It seems like the mentor program. That's really a deep connection you're having with these kids. And like what happened with you, hopefully changing the trajectory of their future career, their life, everything like that. The way they see police, the way they see life is something that you have, control over and kind of steering in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. So 10 years ago, I was going through a rough divorce, and I was broke. I was living in my friend's basement, and I'm sleeping on an air mattress, and I'm looking up at the ceiling, and I'm asking what everyone asks: why me, God? Why me? And I get a phone call out of the blue, and it's my high school basketball coach, and he says, Mike, we started this new program at the school at my alma mater.
Is it high school you went to?
High school, yeah. It's called Student Sponsor Partners. And we're looking for mentors. It's basically a program that offers full scholarships to underprivileged kids that can't afford to go to private school. So he was like, I thought about you, and I think you'd be a perfect fit to be a mentor. And at the time, I was going through so much in my life. I was at the darkest place in my life, man. And I said, absolutely, coach. And at the time, I was studying for the lieutenant's exam, which is a super difficult exam. It takes about 6 to 8 months to study for, and it's super competitive. Only about 10% of the people that take it pass. So I was going through divorce, studying for this test, and I get this phone call, and I'm like, Coach, absolutely count me in. So I said, the only thing I ask is that my mentee play a sport so I can go support. And he paired me up with a basketball player. Basketball is one of my loves.
Same.
So I meet the mentee, this kid, and start mentoring him.
How old was he?
He was 14.
He was like a freshman in high school?
Yeah, he was a freshman. So he winds up winning a championship his freshman year. He goes on to be the second leading scorer in our school's history. He goes on to get
Coach picked a good mentee.
Yeah. So he goes on to get a full scholarship to the University of St. Louis to play basketball. And then he transferred to Norfolk State University.
Virginia?
Yeah, Virginia. And now he's playing overseas in Greece. And then
Pro Bowl.
Yeah, Pro Bowl.
Wow.
Yep. So then I get paired up with a second mentee. He's following in my footsteps. He wants to become a cop. He's in his second year at St. John's University. I have 2 other mentees. One's a junior at Bishop Loughlin, and another one is going into a sophomore. Well, he is a sophomore now, at another school in Brooklyn, and I have numerous unofficial mentees. And now that I work at a community center, I've implemented this mentoring program into what I do as a cop, and it's been amazing. One of my kids, he had a 56 GPA, and because I did a spot check on
Out of
him.
100?
Out of 100.
Okay.
I did a spot check on him. I said, let me see your phone, let me see your grades. And this was 8 weeks ago. And he showed me a 56. I said, what's going on? He said, I'm working, at my mom's supermarket. I'm working long hours and I'm just not focused. I'm tired. I said, well, do you need the money? He says, no. So then you're going to quit your job and you're going to focus on school. And if you don't do what you're supposed to and, pick up your grades, then you can't be a part of this basketball program. And he just texted me yesterday, and his new GPA is 73.
In just a matter of 2 months.
2 months. So
it's amazing.
I know the impact is there, and a lot of his friends are gang members. So by me opening the doors to the community center to him, he's not gonna follow in their footsteps, and he has us.
He has a choice now.
So then, I'll share a quick story. So I'm driving home one day, and I had this vision, and the vision was to recruit more mentors for this program that are police officers, because again, my history, a cop changed my life, right?
Mm-hmm. Pay it forward.
Exactly. So I get a phone call out of the blue from the program, and they said, "We're just checking up. Want to see how it's going with your mentee." And I said, "Great." I just spoke to him, not too long ago, and I said, "I have this vision. I wanna open up doors for more cops to become mentors." So the girl on the phone, she's like, "Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. I'm gonna have my executive director call you."
This is still the same program that goes through your old high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then
Started by your old coach?
No, he didn't start it. They just
Continued it.
adopted it into their school. It was started 30 plus years ago by a man named Peter Flanagan. So the way he started it was he saw that there was a lack of education or resources for education in some of the neighborhoods in New York City. He saw that there was a gap. So he started off with one mentee. He funded her, he sponsored her to go to high school. She wound up graduating, becoming very successful, and Student Sponsor Partners was born. Fast forward 30 plus years later, the executive director is that first student, Deborah Vizzi.
Wow.
So Deborah, I get a phone call from Deborah that same day. She says, "Mike?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Deborah Vizzi, executive director of Student Sponsor Partners." And I'm like, shit, like I felt like Will Smith in the movie, what was it? Pursuit of Happiness, when he goes from
When he's selling a medical equipment.
Yeah, when he goes from the bottom of the list, he's like, "Nah, I'm going right to the top." I felt like that. Like I'm speaking to the executive director of this, multi-million-dollar organization. And I shared with her my vision, and she absolutely loved it. And this goes back to like following your purpose and following what God wants you to do in life, right? I knew from a very young age that I want to become a cop. I knew from a very young age that I wanted to inspire a kid like the cop inspired me. So when you merge, your vision and your passion, that's when you truly start to live. And I felt like at that point when she said yes,
it all came together.
I was like, it all came together. So me starting the Instagram account and building my following organically helped me recruit mentors. And within the first 2 weeks, I had recruited over 100 mentors.
Wow.
Within the first 2 months, it was over 300 mentors. So now over 200 of those mentors are police officers.
We need more of that. That is that's incredible. What do they do with the mentees? God, obviously, it helps to have a connection. So you and your first mentee, basketball was that bond.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it's important to have some kind of common ground, which is why it's not, asking seems like you're picking favorites. Like I want give me a stud basketball player.
Yeah.
But like you need that, otherwise, you want to be engaged.
Correct.
And you want him to have an interest in talking to you. you have nothing to talk about. It's hard to connect with a 15-year-old kid in 2020.
It's funny you mentioned that because sometimes you might not have anything in common with the mentee, but I'll give you an example. There's a sergeant on my job.
Mm-hmm.
He was an SSP student. So when I put out this message to the public, listen, I'm looking for law enforcement, he was one of the first ones to step up. And he's a former SSP student. Like, he was in the program.
Yeah.
So his mentor introduced him to running. And now he's super passionate about running. He runs all the time. He runs for the NYPD team.
There's an NYPD, like a marathon?
Like a running team.
I didn't know that existed.
Yeah.
I knew the softball.
Baseball.
Yeah, baseball.
Baseball, volleyball, football,
You play against
basketball.
NY, right?
Yeah, hockey. Yeah. So sometimes you don't have anything in common, but like you love working out.
Yeah.
You might introduce your mentee to fitness, and now the guy goes on to go into
Compete in bodybuilding.
Yeah,
or something,
exactly.
right? Or be a trainer.
Yeah.
I would love to do that. I would. Now, how many mentors are in the program? How many people are in this whole thing? Sounds like a gigantic operation.
So every year they bring in over 300 students
From all over, or is it just from that area?
from the 5 boroughs.
Okay.
They just opened up the program in Staten Island.
Now each mentor has multiple mentees.
So I have multiple, but a lot of mentors have one. The more experience you gain, the more comfortable you feel with more mentees.
And now, so that's what I was getting at before. So what exactly? So now you had basketball, and that guy had running. But other than this, like what do they actually do with the kids? Like how do they?
So the requirement is that you speak to your mentee once a month.
Okay.
Text, phone call, email, however, social media, and that you meet with them 4 to 6 times a year. Obviously, with COVID, things have changed. A lot of it is virtual now, but that's the requirement. It's very minimal requirement of your time, but the impact that you can have on a kid is monumental.
I think people don't realize how big of an impact small interactions like that have on people. I think people drastically underestimate how important it is for a kid, especially. I mean, it seems to me that majority of the problem comes from lack of leadership, right? So a lot of kids growing up don't have a strong father figure in the home. Maybe don't have people in the community that are doing positive things they can look up to. Mm-hmm. And just by having that figure to kind of call on if they need advice, or just seeing a positive example that maybe they don't have in their own life, I think that people drastically underestimate how important that is and how far that goes for kids.
Yeah, for sure.
That impressionable age, that 13 to that high school, it's just, you make majority of your mistakes at that age.
And you touched on it, the fatherless homes.
Biggest indicator of every marker there is in society, of going to jail, of graduating, of having a successful career. Single parent homes are the number one indicator across any statistic you could pick. The number one indicator of success and failure, that is it.
Correct. So my job, part of the legacy I want to leave behind, if you call it that, is that I want to make sure that kids at that age have someone to look up to, if they don't already, and if they do, then they'll have multiple mentors. But part of my legacy is to leave behind this program and hopefully grow it. It
sounds like you already are.
Yeah, we've been doing amazing work together.
Before you came in and kind of, it sounds like you're elevating the NYPD's influence. Beforehand, was it cops already, or was it a mix? Like, who were the mentors?
I was the first.
Really?
Yeah, I was the first cop in the program.
And what kind of people was it? Just community people?
Business, like huge corporations, teachers.
I'm picturing like the kind of people who would, coach the PAL basketball team. Same kind of guys in the community.
It was a mix. Yeah. It was a mix, but there was no police presence.
Wow.
And we filled the gap that they had. They had, before Deborah took over, there was like a vacancy of over 300 mentors, and by me aligning with them, we were able to fill all those holes.
Now, if someone wanted to apply for either side of this, being a mentor or a mentee, how would they go about that?
So there's a couple different things. You could be a time sponsor, or you could be a monetary sponsor. So the monetary sponsor donates to SSP and basically funds a kid to go to high school. the time sponsors what I do.
I'm sorry, before we go to that, what is it, a private school? Is that why it costs money?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Private Catholic school. And as a mentee,
What is the fee for enrollment? Like, what does it take to get one kid through school?
it's approximately $4,000 a year.
Okay.
Yeah, $4,000 a year. And then the mentee has to fall within a specific criteria. Their parent can't make more than I think 40,000 per capita. Their grades have to be middle of the ground, like 80, 85 average. They don't want the scholars because those kids are going to get scholarships. They're going to succeed.
Yeah.
They're going to be on the right track.
Give
They
the
want
resources to those who need it.
correct. They want to bring the resources to the kids that need it, and they do a great job of it. They have an amazing staff. I work very closely with them, and aligning with them has been heaven sent.
Now, you said, and then you're what you call a time sponsor?
Time, yeah. So I'm a mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the actual mentors. So now if somebody wanted to be a mentor, someone wanted to get involved, hopefully someone listening to this says, you know what, I have something empty in me. I want to give back. I want to help people, whatever it is. And in my head right now, I'm thinking how I could do something with it also.
You're already a mentor, man. You're signing up. So
Yeah. I didn't know. I already signed up.
Yeah.
That's fine. We gotta have the most jacked 16-year-old kid in Corona by this time next year.
exactly.
So how does someone, Jane Doe listening to this right now, who this is striking a chord with, and they're saying, I want to help people. I think a lot of the problem is, I touched again on it, but with Wayne before, and when I talk about charity with people, is that I think that people generally want to do good. They want to help. For the most part, people are very busy, in which case, if you're, financially equipped to, then you can donate. You could be a monetary sponsor. And a lot of people just don't know how to help is the other problem. So I feel like people like yourself and people like Wayne make it simple for people to get involved. So like someone listening now who does want to maybe be a mentor, wants to, take upon a kid to steer in the right direction, how do they get involved?
So they can reach out to me via social media, Lieutenant Mike. I'm sure you'll put it up.
Yeah, I'll plug it in with the links below. You can contact Mike directly on Instagram, and hopefully get a few people to do that.
And I agree 1,000% with you. I think people want to do good. They just don't know how. And it's like ads that come up on your phone. If you don't know about it, you don't see it, you don't look for it, you're never going to do it.
Or who to trust too.
Correct. But if you come across a reputable source, someone that's done it, someone that
Who lives it. You can just check out his social media and you'll see. He eats, sleep, breathes it. So it's the real deal. And that's the thing. There's whole websites dedicated to kind of exposing charity companies that are basically ran like marketing firms, where they take your donations and they're just paying themselves to kind of advertise themselves, and it gets in this cycle of eating up the money. It doesn't actually get to the people that need it. This is one of the most direct forms of good you could possibly be involved with, because this is, in-person interaction with people who need it.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's going to some company and then maybe they get, something to, it's, you're going there, you're bringing the kid to the park, you're playing basketball with them, you're checking on the phone with them, you're making sure, like you said, his grades are good.
Yeah.
He might not have that influence in his life. And I think more people need it. And what a way to give back. I really admire what you do there.
I appreciate it, man. It's definitely a calling. And sometimes we don't listen to that calling and we miss it. And, but I've lived my life off of energy. A lot of my interactions with people are off of energy. And, you got to trust that gut feeling. Like if it's right, it's right. And you just go for it.
Yeah.
And if you're wrong, then, sometimes you're going to be wrong about certain things. But with this, with my career, with the people that I'm aligning myself with, like Wayne, yourself, it's all energy. And if you keep putting out positive energy, like I respect you for starting this podcast and wanting to put out positive messages out there, because not everybody's about that. Most people want to sell, and what sells? The bad.
There's enough negative shit out there. And I think myself, like everybody else, everybody has that predisposition to lean negative. And it's so easy if you're looking for it, right? You find what you look for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's easy to get caught up in all the nonsense going on and fighting with people. But I just think we need more people just putting out good ideas like we're trying to do here today, but then physically going out there and doing the good work like what you do. And like I said, that's what inspired me to start my own foundation. Last year we did 5 schools in the Bronx, with the coat drive.
Nice.
This year, I hope to do the same thing. It's because I saw Wayne do it. And it seems like I'm going to be a mentor soon. And that's because I seen you do it. And it spreads. You know, good ideas, bad ideas, they all spread like
contagious.
Yeah, they all spread, man. Yeah. So pick the positive ones to spread, please, everybody, please. Now, also, I was following you, your page, and I noticed something. Maybe it's already tied into something we talked about it. But what is the Linden Park project?
So the Linden Park project is
that separate from what we talked about so far?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, it's separate because it's a totally different project that we're focusing on, and no, because it's where we're hosting the 3rd annual turkey. We call it the iconic turkey giveaway. So
just so happens to be at Linden Park.
Correct, where I grew up playing basketball.
Okay, so that ties all back in.
So our first year, when we stepped foot on that court, we noticed how messed up that court was. It was just abandoned. You know, cracks in the floor. The rims were all messed up. The backboard's all messed up. And that day, me and Steve made a promise. We said we're gonna come back here. We're gonna renovate this entire court, and that's why it's called the Linden Park Project. Because me and him,
you guys fixed the court up?
Not yet. We're trying to do it by 2021.
Do you guys have already the green light from whatever governing body dictates that park? You know, whatever Parks Department or whatever.
So we're working with the local councilman, Francisco Moya, with the Parks Department, and now it's just a matter of getting the right funding and
that's
getting it done.
That hits a chord with me. I grew up in an area. I was blessed enough to grow up in an area where it wasn't tremendous crime or underfunding, but still our park basketball was always shit. And I had to bring my own. I remember going to the park and bringing my own nets because you'd be playing 3-on-3 and you couldn't tell if it went in or not.
Yeah.
There's no net on there. So we used to bring the metal chain nets, make the cool noise.
Yeah.
And I took care of that park like it was my baby. How much do you think the total budget is to get this, basketball court renovated?
I'm not sure. I would have to ask, a contractor, but nowhere more than 50,000. I think, in my opinion. I think.
How many courts is it?
It's one full court and a half court.
I got enough. I'm Italian. I have enough contractors in my family. I'm sure we could probably.
I would love that.
We can get it. That's something that I would really like to try to raise money. I'm trying to think in my head right now off the top while we're rolling, what I could do to do some kind of a fundraiser. Maybe Wayne could do we can do some kind of a rally, something like that, whatever it is, or something completely outside of the box. But that's something that I want to help. I always want to help, but ideally I want to help with something that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And like you, I grew up. Basketball was my life.
Yep.
From age 6 to 17, that's all I gave a shit about.
Yep, same here.
Every goddamn day. Basketball camps in the summer, travel leagues, AAU, CYO. That's all I did was play ball. So if we can help some kids get a better ball atmosphere, that'd be dope. I would love to be involved in that.
Yeah, I would appreciate it, man. I know the kids in that neighborhood would appreciate it, and like I said, it's all about leaving a legacy, right?
Hell yeah.
We don't take any of the stuff that we have with us. All the stuff that stays behind is what we leave behind, and that's memories and things like that. If we can fix a park, they'll talk about that forever.
Yeah, that's super exciting.
That lives forever.
Mm-hmm. Super exciting to me. Anybody listening to this, if you have any connections with that, if you're an asphalt guy, if you're whatever it is that you make backboard, because someone owns a company that makes the backboards, the rims, whatever it is, or a contractor that's done work with this before, please contact either myself or Lieutenant Mike and let us know how you can help, or what if you can get us a good deal on anything in that. I really want to get involved in that. That's awesome. And that's Linden Park, and that's in Corona?
Yeah. It's called Park of the Americas now.
Park of the Americas.
But it used to be called Linden Park, so we kept the name.
What are the intersections?
It's 104th Street between 401 and 42 Ave.
41st and
42nd Ave.
I want to swing by there.
Yeah. Come by tomorrow.
I was about to say, maybe I'll go to Yonkers first.
Yeah.
Help Wayne with 1,000 turkeys, and then pop over to Linden Park. I'd love to see what's up. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that. You said you're gonna be there at 8.
Yeah, I'll be at Yonkers at 8.
Thing?
So the turkey giveaway is from 12 to 3.
You go to Yonkers, you load up, I'm guessing, some kind of truck, then you go to Corona.
Correct. Yeah, we load up the turkeys and head to Corona, and you'll see the need, firsthand. If you come tomorrow, you'll see. And we spoke about energy. You'll see the energy just These people,
appreciative.
oh man, the
Yeah.
gratitude.
Changed my life.
It's amazing.
Changed my life. The first time we did that drive, and I had like an 8-year-old girl run up and hug my leg and thank me like I was Santa Claus. And I was like, Jesus, for an Old Navy jacket. You know what I mean? It was nothing extraordinary. It was just the time and the thought, and they appreciate that.
I would love to partner up with you on that too. You know, with the coat drives, I'm always for anything positive and anything that gives back to the community. I'm all for it. And
we got to brainstorm a way to raise the money.
Yeah.
You know, a fun way to do it. I think that's one of the things. I hate to keep talking about Wayne. Wayne, I'm blowing a lot of smoke up your ass today. But one of the things he did is he made charity engaging and cool. Like it just gives people an extra reason to want to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
So we'll definitely talk about ways we can figure that out, because it doesn't take a ton of money to change an entire school.
No.
I mean, we got a jacket for every single kid in those schools. You know, it was like 68 in one school, 120 in another. You know what I mean? And an Old Navy card. They do pretty good financing. They have pretty good rates. Was able to bankroll the whole thing.
Wow.
And you know, and just paid off over time, whatever it is. So you know, if you're listening now and you are missing out because, you know, clubs are closed, you haven't gone and bought bottles for a while, that's bullshit. You know, that money that you pissed that out the night of or the morning after, you wake up with a hangover, a few $1,000s can go to make an entire school make their needs for jackets disappear, or God knows how many families. I think
homeless shelters too.
Homeless
shelters. We did one last year in Brooklyn, East New York. We did a book bag drive, and we gave out.
Where in East New York?
It's near Pennsylvania Avenue.
Okay. My uncle used to have a rim shop over on just off of Pennsylvania Avenue on Linden.
Okay, yeah, that's not too far. I forgot the address, but they actually
a very rough area.
Yeah, very rough area. A lot of need. But we did a book bag drive. Coat drive there last year, and you know, gave out a lot of coats, and it was one of I call him my nephew. I have a lot of nephews on the job now. You know, cops that look up to me, and he started this. You know, it was one of his visions. He wanted to start it, and we made it happen. And just like you said, the kids that run up to you, give you a hug, just because they appreciate it so much. And that's the reason I bring my son to a lot of these things. My 10-year-old son.
It's good to expose him to that.
Michael Jr. Yeah, I bring him to almost every single event that I do, because I want him to see firsthand
how lucky he is.
Yeah, and he loves it. He loves it, man. He loves giving back.
That's amazing. I think it's one thing that I realized in my last few years. You know, it's easy to say like I'm so blessed and whatnot, and I don't mean monetarily, although anyone. We're both in a position where, we could eat, we have a roof over our heads. And when you go into situations and you see people that don't have the basic necessities you take for granted, it puts a lot of things into perspective. It really does. And like I said, a kid, the whole coat drive started, someone reached out. And my mother actually told me about it. My mother's on social media now. She has like a ghost account. She doesn't
Shout out to mom.
Shout out to mom, Dukes, to Donna. And she's got the biggest heart anybody ever knew. So she saw actually Wayne's post, because she goes to the food drives with me all the time, so she follows Wayne. She said, "What's up with these jackets? These kids need jackets." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, I called Wayne, and then she put me in touch with BB. And she said, "Yeah, one of the teachers called me crying from, I think it was PS 163 in the Bronx. It was a fire drill yesterday. Just bad timing. The principal, I guess, didn't think it through and called a fire drill on like the coldest day of the year. It was like 20 degrees outside." And the kids were outside and they weren't wearing jackets, and teachers are going, "Why didn't you bring your jacket outside? What are you, crazy? It's freezing." And they're like, "Oh, we don't have a jacket." And like, "Why didn't you bring a jacket to school?" No. We don't own a jacket.
Wow.
And she said she was bawling.
Wow.
She was bawling, crying.
Wow.
And then, so she went to the social worker in the school and started asking around and say, "Hey, I noticed in this class, there's 3-4 kids that don't have jackets. Is that something that's going on in other classes?" And they tallied up. And like I said, one school had 70 kids with no jacket.
Wow.
You're talking about 9-year-old kid rolling up to school in 20 degrees in a t-shirt.
Jesus.
It's insane. It's crazy. And that's when I realized how spoiled I am. Like, people throw like this privilege thing around a lot, but that's one privilege that I realized that I had, in a blind spot that I had. When you hear about people not having, I thought that was a problem that was extinct already. I didn't think that was going on in New York City today. To 2020, the kids don't have jackets. It's amazing. It's insane. And now New York's getting cold again. So gonna need it again. We definitely need to get on that.
I just came from East New York, and right now, before I came here, we were feeding probably like 600 families, and you got to see you know, how many people came up and just so thankful for a meal.
This is the homeless place, or this is something different?
No, this is totally different. This was at Cypress Hills houses in East New York, Fountain Ave. But the need is there, man, and like you said, we take a lot for granted. You know,
It's hard not to. It's hard not to, right? Things that you just know that are in front of you every single day, no matter how appreciative of a person you are, how good of a person you are, it's human nature. It's impossible not to get used to it,
Yeah,
comfortable with it, and then all of a sudden it's like your new baseline. And these people would give anything for a hot meal and a jacket.
Yeah.
It's really puts things in perspective. What were you crying about again? Would you crack your cell phone screen?
Yeah.
What happened? You know what I mean? You didn't get you went on sneakers.com and you didn't get the new Jordan release. Tough. Oh, I feel so bad. You know what I mean? And then you got to just check yourself and kind of realize like, wow, the shit I'm complaining about is nothing.
Yeah, life is a lot harder for people than we realize, and I think pages like Wayne's page and I try and highlight on my page,
your page.
You know, exposes people to the truth, you know, and the fact is that there is a large need out there, and you know, if we can give back, we should, you know, and we shouldn't do it for clout, you know, we shouldn't do it for likes, we shouldn't do it for followers. And I think when you start to see pages doing it for that reason, it makes you gravitate towards pages like Wayne's,
100%.
you know, where he's not doing it for clout or for anything else, but because he had an experience where he saw a woman cry because he gave her a turkey for Thanksgiving.
I played that clip on last week's episode, and it's heavy.
It's heavy.
It's heavy.
It's heavy.
Those things get to me pretty easily.
Heavy. And there's a lot of people out there that do a lot for clout. And
nowadays that's all people do it for.
This week was a tough one for me, man, because I just witnessed a lot of it, especially with the turkey drives. You know, you see people just sensationalizing what they do, and
or showing up for the photo op.
Showing up for the photo op,
little selfie, and we're out.
And I caught someone lying about it. You know, I caught someone saying, "Yeah, you know, we're giving out 10,000 turkeys this week," and I knew the number, and it was nowhere near 10,000. You know, the person on their page, and this is like someone that is known, said, you know, we're giving out over 10,000 turkeys, and it was like maybe 1,200 at most, and I just called him out on it, you know, in person. I'm like, how many turkeys do you give out? He was like, oh, we gave out 100, you know, and then we gave out 400 yesterday, and you know, another, you know, a couple hundred today. I was like, so what do you think, like 10,000? And the guy was like, the guy looked at me like,
uh-oh.
I said, what do you think, 10,000? He's like, no, like 4,000. I was like, oh, all right. And then he made believe somebody called him and ran off. But I just got to a point where I got
that's ego.
I got tired of it.
That's
you know?
ego. That's not, your head's not in the right place with that. I mean, we don't mention names, but whoever that is,
No,
you got to look in the mirror and kind of say, what are you doing this for? And why did you feel the need to exaggerate?
Correct.
Like it didn't help. It didn't help more people because you exaggerated the number. More turkeys didn't emerge because you did that. All it did was it made you look a little bit cooler to whatever people believed it on your little post, whatever it is.
Shout out to that person. You know who you are, and you know I see you.
Yeah, and now you better go out and buy the 9,000 turkey gap between what you claimed you did and what you really did.
And what's funny is that person probably didn't give a dime to the whole cause.
All right. Well, I mean,
but let's not get into the negative side of things. Keep it positive. But just know that I have that side of me too, that I'll call somebody out.
You gotta be. I mean, just because you're a nice guy and you do things doesn't mean you're not real.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you won't call someone's bullshit.
I say facts over feelings all the time.
All the fucking time. And that is, unfortunately, in my opinion, one of the biggest problems we have as a society now is that people are valuing their feelings over reality and facts. And it gets real sketchy real fast when people don't have that logical thread between the way they think and what they say and what they do. And then when you confront them with a fact that kind of undermines their whole narrative or whatever they think, they either attack you, make up excuses, whatever it is. It never goes well. And it's like, how can a fact enrage you that much? This is just a reality. This is not my opinion. These are numbers, you know.
But you know what? At the end of the day, your family comes first. You know, I'm big into family. I told you I went through a rough divorce, and at 11 months, my son was ripped out of my life. You know,
by your ex.
By my ex, yeah. I kept being, you know, the father that I should be, you know, in his life. And
how old is your son now?
He's 10.
this happened when he was.
He was 11 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was Christmas 2010.
And this is back when you were going through that rough patch.
Yeah.
Or it was caused a rough patch. I'm
Correct.
assuming.
So fast forward, you know, me driving every weekend to Jersey to go pick him up, you know, studying for the lieutenant's exam. I dedicated the test to him, by the way, wound up passing. But fast forward a couple years.
He's Michael Jr.?
Michael Jr., yeah. Fast forward a couple years, I was in the 107 precinct. I was a platoon commander. And platoon commander is basically the lieutenant that oversees an entire platoon of cops. So
I'm so bad with the ranks. Like you said before, you went from I thought sergeant was higher than lieutenant.
No,
So
it's cop, detective, sergeant, lieutenant, and then captain and above.
So you were a detective for a point too?
No, I never made that rank. I went from cop to sergeant.
Okay.
But a cop walked into my office and says, "Hey Lou, you're a single guy. You ever tried Tinder?" And I'm like, "Tinder? What's that?" He's like, "You know, if you swipe left, you don't like her. You swipe right, you like her." I'm like, "Nah, I never tried it." So download the app. And at this point in my life, you know, I had been through a lot of bad relationships, and
Who hasn't?
I ignored a lot of red flags, and that's part of. I do a presentation for recruits every year, and that's part of my presentation is talking about red flags and not ignoring those red flags.
Yeah.
If you see a red flag in a relationship, it's not going to change.
No,
you
gonna
know?
get worse.
So I get matched up, I get paired up, I get that notification. And at the time, I just wanted to meet a friend, and I'm being sincere, completely sincere. I wasn't looking for anything else. I wanted just a real friendship. And I met this girl, and we built the foundation. And, you know, a couple weeks later, a couple dates later, you know, a month or two later, I asked her to be my girl. And, you know, and then, you know, a year later, I proposed. You know, I did this whole big, what is it called? What's it called?
I was gonna say a gender reveal, but that's
Not a gender reveal. No, that was years later. But what the hell is it called? When they dance.
Flash mob?
Flash mob. I did a flash mob proposal at Bryant Park. And the actual video went viral on YouTube. It has like 1.5 million views. But anyways, you know, we built the foundation. What was that?
Were you wearing Jordans when you did it?
Nah, I wasn't wearing the J's.
Have you seen a guy who did the proposal? He took his right shoe off so he didn't crease the toe box?
Nah.
I thought that was
that's horrible. So then where I'm going with this is I met my wife. She became an excellent mother figure to my son. Like, she embraced him from day one. And I started to feel that family atmosphere again.
How long have you been together now?
We've been together 6 years now. So we have 2 more babies. You know, my daughter's 3, Skylar May. My other daughter is 6 months, Hayden Grace. But right before I married my wife, Elizabeth, my ex took my son to DR, and she refused to come back. It was a whole big ordeal.
She out of the country. She took this out of the country.
Yeah, out of the country.
And just said, I'm staying here.
Correct. Which is heavy.
Fuck yeah.
Heavy.
Like anxiety, just still this thinking about that.
So
how old is he at this point?
He was 6.
So barely old enough to know what's going on. Probably knows something's wrong, but can't really wrap his head around that kind of situation.
Correct. So without going into too much detail, you know, I prayed a lot about it. I'm a man of faith, as you know. And I trust God with all my heart. And you know, we went through a whole custody thing, and I wound up getting custody of my son. And
100%.
100%. Yeah, I got full custody of my son.
If you don't mind me asking, how did you get him back from DR? I'm sure that's different jurisdictions and
so it took a lot of legwork.
You got to go there.
I know she had come back for something, and I had her served with court papers when she was here. But it was a blessing in disguise because, you know, for those first 6 years of his life, I was there 100%, and I had proof to back it, and ultimately it's what led me to get custody of my son. But I never take it for granted. Like, I'm there every single day. I tuck him into bed.
Well, you know what it's like to have him taken from you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why I say family first. And a lot of people on this job, they put the career first. you know, and that's why there's such a high divorce rate. You know, the career comes first, the overtime, the long hours, and not saying that's the only reason, the stress of the job, but I learned a lot from losing it all.
And well, your hardest times what makes you.
Yeah.
What do they say?
Adversity introduces man to himself.
And calm waters don't make great sailors, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so you would probably have to say that 2010 and what was it, 2015, 16 that happened?
16.
Those times, well, the first one led you to your now wife.
Yeah.
Right? And 2016 event led you to the, I mean, obviously it's your son. I'm sure you loved him to no end to begin with, but
correct.
Having taken away from you puts a whole other level of perspective on that
sure.
dynamic of that relationship.
Yeah, for sure. I think also
and you bounce back stronger.
I did, man. And like I said, my faith carried me through it all. My
with
mom.
The company, the shirt that you were saying before.
God is dope. Yeah, shout out to they're a company I found on social media, and I just think their product, their message, is dope.
That's cool.
And I rock their stuff.
That's that same thing. If you can make charity cool, if you can make religion cool,
you can make Jesus cool.
Yeah, I mean, goddamn, that's talent. Yeah. If you make cool clothes and still keep your faith in there, it's amazing.
Yeah. So going back to this story, I think having that faith is what led me to know that everything was gonna be all right. And on my way to my first court appearance for custody, a song came on the radio that reminded me of my mother. My mother passed away in 2008, and this song I had never heard on the radio before, and it came on the radio, and I'm like,
she's watching.
This is a sign. So I get to court, and right above the judge's head, it says, "In God we trust." And I just started praying, and right off the bat, I could just tell where it was going, and I've always remained loyal to my son, obviously, and loyal to my principles, and those principles are just to be kind, to be compassionate, have empathy, do the right thing when nobody's looking,
no matter what,
exactly.
That's what makes a man. That's the difference. Now I find that most of these people, obviously not you, but a lot of people now, they do what we call virtue signaling. So they want to put this message out there, this like the virtues. They want to signal as if they are virtuous, but their principles and their virtues are very touchy. You know what I mean? They apply it when they want to and don't when they want to. It's all about peace and unity. And then you might see them screaming in a cop's face, or telling a person of different political beliefs to go fuck themselves. Yeah, it's like, if you believe in God, God's watching at that point too, right? And your principles aren't your principles; they only apply when you feel like it. Correct. It has to apply when it's hard. It has to apply when it's easy. It has to apply when you like it. It has to apply when no one's watching. It has to apply when everyone's watching. Otherwise, it's not really principles.
It's all about accountability.
And I think that is the number one thing we are lacking in 2020 is accountability. Yeah. Accountability. Everyone makes excuses for their own shortcomings and failures and mistakes or excusing for other people, and no one's accountable anymore. These politicians aren't held accountable. They're in politics for 50 years and done nothing. No one seems to be accountable anymore. Celebrities, they get in trouble. Everyone makes excuses for them. It's a tough place, and we need more people, more real men to step up, and women. I'm not sexist. Just real good people to step up and show principles so that this next generation can actually have some principles. It feels like we cater to the lowest denominator now. Yeah. Social media, it caters to the lowest denominators, the people looking for clout, like you said, is people, showing off their, their ass or their fucking, whatever it is, to the lowest denominator. And the things that we prioritize are all fucked up now.
Yeah. If you notice, the people with the most followers are people like that. Like, showing skin and, doing things for clout.
Not very substantive people.
No.
Famous for all the wrong reasons.
Correct.
And, how do you blame a 13-year-old girl in this society for wanting to be like who she sees being successful? And who's that? I'm not going to name names because I like to not. I don't like to talk about women, in that light, especially if they have a man. I don't think it's appropriate. But there's female rappers and celebrities who
from the Bronx.
who don't represent anything. So I now have a niece, my first niece.
Congrats.
And it changed. Thank you. Yeah, and it's actually my goddaughter.
Nice.
And she changed the way that I look at females, that I look at having children. It was something that's one of those corny things people say to you.
Changes
like,
you.
Yeah, they say like when you have an, I hope you still experience that is, when you have a kid, it changes everything. Everything changes immediately. And like having seen her, I grasp that because when I look into her, I've never loved something so unconditionally that couldn't even speak to me. You know what I mean? Like I immediately saw her and felt I was in love with her. Like she's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And like I want to just protect that at all costs. And it just worries me, she's, a couple months old right now, in 12 years from now, when she's in middle school, the trajectory we're going on now, I can only imagine what the icons are going to be then. And it just might as well be porn stars at that point. I mean, we're on the cusp as it is. And at the same time, though, people emulate what works, right? These people are looking up to these people, not because they're failures, because they're super rich and on the cover of magazines and in award shows. So when you start rewarding that behavior, you're only incentivizing people to start chasing that behavior and duplicating it. And it's like there's that slippery slope kind of going down. And we need more strong, principled, accountable people like yourself to be in a position where people can admire it and look up to it and have an option. Is okay, no, you can be successful and still have principles and still keep your clothes on if you're a female and, not glorify violence or all the other bad things that are going on in society now. And, yeah, I got a little off track there, but it's just, it just, the whole false icon thing really bothers me. Like I said, we're going to the lowest common denominator all across the board, and we need to clean that up. Listen, I love rap music, and anyone knows me, I've been listening to rap music my entire life. But if you can't separate the reality from what they're talking about, it's a real problem. You know what I mean? It's like when you grow up and you're watching wrestling. I remember fighting with my father that wrestling's real. How do you see him bleeding? My dad's going, oh, if only you knew. It's just, I'm 9 years old. That's how I feel when I watch these kids emulating rappers now. It's like, that guy's not really shooting people in his spare time, right? He's not really doing any things he talks about. And then you have kids in the street.
He's not really driving that Ferrari or that Lamborghini.
Yeah, he's renting mine.
He's renting. Yeah, exactly.
And then, but then you have these kids that go in the street and they're living out these lyrics, and then they end up dead or in jail.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible situation.
And I think that's where we come into play, and I think that's why mentoring is so important because I like the saying, be who you wish you had when you were their age.
Oh, love that.
Love that. And I think if I continue to do what I'm doing and Greg, shout outs to Greg.
The most expensive, but also the dopest coasters in the game.
Yeah, shout out to Greg, man. Greg is amazing as well. And when I say follow positive pages, I mean, you see what he does for certain people, even, his own staff, like just the way he treats people. He's so humble, like yourself, like Wayne, and those are the people that we need out there that should be a shining example on social media, because social media is where we get our news from most of the time. But anyways, going back, I think that's where we fill the role of mentors. And if I continue on this track, keep building this stable of people that want to give back.
Mentors at this space.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for, man.
And that outreach that spreads.
And that, believe it or not, deters crime.
100%. And just interviews like this, those too, people need to understand that. And it's refreshing to see, like I said, a normal conversation right now. Like I'm not thinking while we're talking, this is a cop that I'm talking to.
Yeah.
This is a fucking cool ass guy and a hardworking guy. All the people you just mentioned, one thing they have in common, Greg, Wayne, yourself, is hardworking.
Yeah.
And that's the thing you need to emulate about people. Yeah. That's the most important quality to have.
Agreed.
A hard worker.
Agreed. And you never see like guys like yourself flaunting money, right? Everyone knows, Greg has a successful business. You have successful businesses. Wayne has successful businesses. But like the old saying goes, I know someone that's so broke, all they have is money. And you guys aren't like that.
Now, if I lost everything that I had tomorrow, I'd be okay. I know I have faith in myself and my work ethic that I can get anything that I will put my head to. And the people that I've surrounded myself, my friends and family, are what make me rich. You know what I mean?
Amen.
I have the best family anyone could ask for, the best friends anyone could ask for, the best girl anyone could ask for. So everything else, just put your head down to it, get to work, and everything else falls into place.
The best things in life money can't buy.
That's 100% true. It's frustrating, but the corniest lines are always the truth.
But they're true. There's truth to it. They have truth to it. I married my best friend, my soulmate. As corny as it sounds, I'm living life.
Nah, it's goals. That's everyone should be striving for.
That's half the battle right there.
Yes.
That's half the battle right there. Is finding a true, soldier that's going to stand by you.
It eliminates the distractions.
Correct.
When you're out there and you're going out to the clubs and you're dating around and you're sleeping around, you're not focusing on your goals. You have someone in your corner who's going to make you better, hold you accountable, make sure you're the best man you could be. I mean, your potential it multiplies.
Yeah. My dream was always to live in Long Island because growing up, I would always visit, my family that had a house.
That's where when you made money in the boroughs back in the day, you used to move to Long Island.
Yeah. And my cousin actually reminded me of that dream that I had. I had told him when we were younger, I said, I'm going to buy a house in Long Island. And when I met my wife, I knew that I wanted to make that move. I was still living in Queens. And,
was she in Queens also?
No, she was here in Long Island, Nassau. Okay. And, together we found our dream home. And we've invested in the home and made it our dream home, and I can't wait to make even more memories. When we went to the open house, when we were looking, as soon as we walked in, we had searched for months, and as soon as we walked in, we went upstairs, we saw the bedrooms, and I walked downstairs, and I just pictured Christmas time.
This is it.
And my son, I didn't have my daughters at the time, I pictured my son and our future children running down the stairs Christmas morning, seeing the tree, and that's exactly how it's happened. That's exactly what's happened. So I think vision is a very important quality to have.
You got to see it first.
You got to see it.
So that's something that I take pride in. One thing in myself is I think I'm a good creator, and people always ask me, because to me the ideas just come to my head.
Mm-hmm.
How did you think this? How'd you listen? I'm like, I saw it in my brain first, and then I did everything I could to bring it to life. Yeah. When it comes to Fresh, that logo, exactly how it looks, popped into my head like a neon Vegas sign. I remember just thinking and then I just went until I brought it into real life. All the packaging and everything I've built, everything I've ever done in my life, it all starts here first. Visualize it first and then work your ass off until it's a reality. That's everything. And I mean, not that we're anywhere yet. We're on episode 2. But one day I hope we're on episode 1,000 on your 4th time sitting down with me. And
I'll definitely be here.
And hope this will be something that I can build off of. But it all started here. People, everybody in the mother's a podcast now, so it's not like I'm reinventing the wheel here. But when people see this, the studio setup, they're like, where did this come from? All up here.
Yeah, your vision.
That's it.
Your vision. I'm sure you pictured this moment,
100%.
I'm sure you pictured this moment, and now it's here.
I had a list. I still have a list of people that I wanted on the podcast. I called it my wish list. It's a memo in my notes in my phone. And before we even spoke for our first time, you're on that list. I said, I want to speak to him. However it's got to be done. Anyone who knows me, I'll do whatever it takes to get it done.
That's amazing.
I've been harassing you for God knows how long until I get this interview. So we just, you got to think about it, visualize it first, and then make it happen. And all the people that I look up to in my life are people that embody that. Hardworking, determined people who have this creative vision, and then nothing stops them from making it happen.
Yeah.
Everyone's got good ideas. Yeah. I say it all the time. Everyone's got good ideas, a great idea they're sitting on, a great business plan, whatever it is in their head. But most people let other people talk them out of it. They get scared off of their idea. They don't think they had the time or energy for it. But what separates the good from the great are the people, and I'm not putting myself into any great category. I'm just saying people that I look up to, who I think are great, all of them have that one thing in common, is that they did not stop until their vision became a reality. And I love people that do that. And that's what I see in you. I see, like you said, you had this idea. It all started here.
Yep.
Popped it in your head while you were driving one day. And you said, what would be great if we integrated NYPD more into this program? I want to expand on this. And you did it. And you made it fucking happen.
Yeah.
There can't be enough said about that.
It gives me goosebumps when I think about it.
It's amazing. It's amazing. There's nothing more amazing than watching your idea come to fruition.
And then to get messages from other mentors and pictures of them with their mentees. I've met some pretty incredible people through this, this type of work, and yourself included. I mean, when you hit me up and you asked me to be on your podcast, I felt the energy right away. I told you I base all my relationships off of energy. If I didn't feel the energy, trust me, I would not be in this seat. And that's a compliment to you. You came at me, in the most humble way, and I knew I had to be here, and thankfully, I was here when I was supposed to be here. Yeah. Wayne was supposed to be your first guest. I was supposed to be your first.
Yeah, correct. I'm gonna say.
In reality, Wayne should have that honor, and I'm glad he was first because he's paved the way for me to be able to do even more work. So I would much rather him be first and let me follow.
And this network just, I mean, the more we interact and the more these like-minded individuals come, the network just gets stronger.
Yeah.
I can't wait to brainstorm about this.
The ecosystem keeps growing.
Yeah, I just can't wait to brainstorm ideas on how we can get this basketball court going. So
Linden Park Project.
I keep
Look out for it.
That's all I keep thinking about. We got to come up with something creative to get some money on the table. I'll donate my time, whatever I can.
I think the money is the easy part. That's why we haven't focused on the money. I think getting past the red tape with the parks department is the hard part.
You think that'd be the fucking easy part? Hey, you want to
renovate
make
your
park nicer for the kids?
Yeah.
Hold on, there's a bureaucracy, and you have to jump through hoops to do it.
Yeah, I think like you said, getting a rally together, getting Wayne on board.
Something fun.
A lot of contractors. With the asphalt companies, the backboards is simple. So I think it's definitely going to happen.
A lot less than 50,000 too.
I think so too. I threw that number just because those are numbers that were thrown at us.
I'm hoping we get done for under 20.
Yeah.
It's just asphalt, some paint, and 2 backboards, 2 rims, right?
Yeah.
What do we really need?
Yeah.
And hopefully we get some people to donate. That's the big thing I wanted to touch on too. And I'm hoping that a lot of things that I say I put out there in the universe so that someone on the receiving end who can actually make something of it can then go into action, right? All this happened because we took signals, right? You had somebody reach out to you, you became a police officer.
Yep.
You had someone reach out to you for the mentoring program. So it takes a giving and a receiving. So, I saw what you were doing. I invited you on. You came on. We have to put out the ideas of people who can get involved, who can help. So if anyone out there, like I said, can help with the basketball court, or another thing I wanted to bring attention to is the coat drive. Who knows someone at Old Navy? I mean, we bought hundreds of jackets last year, just walking into the store off the street. We need corporate sponsors for this. There's no reason why I'm going to go after Old Navy, not because there's anything wrong with Old Navy, but just because that's where I went for all those jackets. And like I said, the first school we did was less than 3 miles away from an Old Navy flagship store. So how are you a multi-billion-dollar corporation and you're letting kids go to school in your backyard with no jackets on?
Yeah.
And those jackets cost probably cents to make.
Yeah.
So whatever we can do to give awareness to this, which is the reason why I videotape it, which is the reason why Wayne has the car rallies, and there's all these flashy objects. But that's just to draw attention to the matter at heart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That actually means something.
It's funny you mentioned that because recently 2 of my kids that we mentor at the community center made the honor roll. So my boss put it out there. He's like, we should get them sneakers, to reward them.
Hell yeah.
So one of the cops, stepped up. He's like, you know what? I'll pay for them. So he has a plug, with Foot Locker, I believe, and he got them Kyrie Irving sneakers. I kind of like asked them, I showed them a picture of a bunch of sneakers, and I said, which ones would you get if you could get? I made believe they were for me.
You.
And we surprised them. I posted it on my page. We posted it on the community center page, and one of the owners of Jimmy Jazz saw the post.
You showed Jimmy Jazz in Fulton Mall.
Yeah, exactly.
Jamaica Ave.
Yep. And they reached out, and now they want to sponsor some kids.
That's amazing.
So it's funny that you mentioned that.
Shout
putting
out
it out
to
there.
Jimmy Jazz. I fucking love that. I used to shop at Jimmy Jazz all the time, but the fact that I just heard that story makes me appreciate them that much more. Shout out to Jimmy Jazz. That's fucking awesome. And Jimmy Jazz, people don't know, haven't been shopping those kind of areas. It's like a Foot Locker. They got cool, trendy sneakers, clothes, whatever it is. Shout out to Jimmy Jazz. Free promo for you for being good peoples. But yeah, so another thing I wanted to touch base with you was and talk about was, and it's a tough subject to talk about because there's so much negativity and hostility behind it. But I think it's important to talk about, and I don't really care what people think about me, so I'm going to talk about it anyway. Is this whole, and I think, ridiculous notion of the fund the police movement.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've heard multiple different takes on it from multiple different people in my real life. Very few people actually think that's a good idea, although people have different definitions of what it means. I've seen the spin on it in the media. I've seen people, community activists and group leaders, and I won't mention groups' names, and politicians endorsing it to different varying degrees. Some people saying, no, defund the police doesn't mean we're actually going to defund the police. It just means cutting back on the budgets and getting rid of military-type vehicles. Okay, I wouldn't be completely opposed to that. Some people are saying, no, you want to just cut the funding to the departments as far as salaries and stuff like that. Don't see how that's going to work. Some people, although the media tries to tell you that's not what they're saying, I've seen people straight up say, no, we don't want a police department anymore. I think that was in Minnesota after, I think it was the George Floyd situation. Some of the city council members actually called for, actually breaking apart the I don't know who they're going to
Disbanding the
call.
police.
Yeah, disbanding the police, which is insane. I don't know how anybody with a right mind. So let's just pretend it doesn't exist because I have a hard time believing anybody's serious about that. But just from the point of lowering the amount of funds that go to the police department, I have one simple mental exercise that I give people when we're talking about this, and is, can you name a single business or industry in the history of the world that if you offered less money for that job, it would increase the talent pool in that profession? And I'll wait, because the answer is it doesn't exist. So I don't know why people think it's, again, that detachment from the human element of police officers. For some reason, people think that like these cops are just like a public utility, and these aren't humans. They're like robots that'll just do their job, and you can tell them, you can decrease morale by talking however you want to talk about them, cut off funding, and it's going to somehow, like, they're just going to, oh, okay, we learned our lesson, we're going to be better at cops now. There's nobody that thinks like that, and there's no business that works like that. So what is your take on this whole defund the police thing? Obviously, there's room for improvement like anything in life, right? No, cops aren't perfect. The system isn't perfect. What's your take on defunding the police? I personally think that we should be increasing the funds to police. And people get mad when I say that. Like I'm trying to, they make it as if I'm trying to fund the Nazi movement. Like, no. If you want these cops to be better trained, you need to spend more money. Yeah. Who's training them? How do they get in the training? Or just in a blanket statement here, if you raised the starting salary for these positions, nothing against police officers in the job now, because there's tons of good people, and I'm friends with and family with people who are on the job, but you'll probably get a higher caliber of employee overall if you made it. I always use the example too, like, you've never heard of a Secret Service agent accidentally shooting somebody, right? Or shooting the wrong side, or FBI. How rare is that? Because those guys are vetted. They paid a lot more money, and you just get a higher talent pool in mass.
Well, they also respond to, a lot less jobs. They're not really responding to 911 calls. So there's hundreds upon thousands of 911 calls a year.
Fair point.
If not millions. So they're not exposed to.
But I feel like every time the FBI goes to someone's house, it's somebody who's high risk.
Yeah.
You don't really hear about FBI raids going sideways.
Yeah. I mean, there is a stricter process.
They probably all were cops before that.
Not necessarily.
No,
not necessarily.
That's all I'm asking. I don't know. I'm an idiot. I don't know shit about shit.
No, not necessarily.
I'm asking to find. I ask questions because I genuinely want to know.
Yeah. So defund the police. A lot of it sounds bad, right?
It's like a knee-jerk reaction.
Correct. It's like a bad name for something that means reallocating funds. So let's say you have $1 million budget. Defund the police means we're going to take X amount of dollars from that $1 million and reallocate it towards psychologists, social workers, whatever. I'm not opposed to.
But all the tax revenue we have, can't we find that money somewhere else other than taking it from the police department?
That's a question for someone at a much higher.
I'm just saying, like, there's got to be a million wasteful programs out there that we could cut.
Yeah, of course. And
then put more money. I don't think anyone's opposed to putting more money into, community organizers and social workers and stuff like that. But
so there's a new pilot program where they're gonna dispatch social workers with cops to emotionally disturbed person jobs. Jobs meaning 911 calls.
A very underrated problem that cops face. That a lot of times these situations they're interacting with people who are mentally unstable.
Oh, absolutely, man.
And or on drugs.
Those are the most dangerous jobs. Those and domestic incidents are high volatile jobs. And when I say job, I mean 911 calls.
Why? Because when you show up, tensions are so high already for the domestic ones?
Correct. There's a high propensity for violence.
Because they're already on 10.
Yeah. So I don't take offense to. Originally, I did take offense to that word. I thought it meant what everyone else thought it meant, which was to take away all the money from cops and not.
Well, some people do still say that.
Some people do,
yeah,
and that's just not realistic.
But even in LA right now, like the guy Garcetti, the mayor of LA, he cut the budget to LAPD by, it was some ridiculous amount of a ridiculous percent. But I just saw the breakdown today. They just announced today what's actually going to get cut. And it was like a special investigation unit into rape. It was a homeless outreach program.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, it's really sad. It's like you realize this is not going to actually fix the problem that you see, and it's only going to make things worse.
Correct. I agree with you that police should get more funding.
Way more.
For training.
Way more.
like if we invested in training, like so let's say
Jiu-jitsu.
exactly like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and
Ways
obviously
to apprehend a suspect without deadly force.
correct, because a lot of cops, let's be honest, can't fight.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're
Those are the saddest videos when you see them struggling with a suspect. It's
Yeah.
like, this guy's not fit for this job.
correct, if you square up with someone and you don't know how to handle yourself, it's going to be a bad situation.
The gun can't be a get out of jail free card.
No,
pun
and
intended.
every fight you're in, it's a gunfight because
Yeah.
there's a gun introduced into the scenario. So I think Brazilian jiu-jitsu would be amazing. There's this guy on social media, Renier Gracie, comes from the Gracie family.
I mean, that's the family for jiu-jitsu.
Correct.
Yeah.
He's come up with so many ideas, and I hope and pray that somebody listens to him one day, because he looks like he genuinely cares about the safety of the community and the safety of cops.
And he sees a solution.
Correct.
It's a clear solution. I mean, nothing will be foolproof. There's always it's human interactions, there's X factors, there's always going to be shit as the fan. But if you can control somebody physically with your hands, and I have to escalate to a taser, I have to escalate to using a gun or a baton or whatever it is, I mean, that changes everything.
Correct.
You ever seen a civilian interact with, like, hop in and save the day when it's someone robbing your store and they know jiu-jitsu? They get them behind them, they put them to sleep, and it's over. They wake up a little foggy a few minutes later, and that's it.
Yeah.
No one has to die. But like what you were saying, no, in order to train 800,000 plus people in jiu-jitsu, you don't just, jiu-jitsu isn't something that you download overnight and know. It's something you have to constantly be going and working on. So who's paying for that? Who's paying for the cops' time, the instructor's time, whatever sensei it is that's running the program? I mean, we're talking about thousands of hours of training. It takes money. You want to see less people get hurt in police interactions, teach them non-lethal skills like jiu-jitsu.
Correct.
Do you think a lot of the people that you work with, any of them know jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
It's very rare, or is it?
It's rare. It's rare, but
That's a shame.
yeah, it's rare.
But not their fault either.
No.
You're working a full-time job, the most stressful job probably in the world, being a police
Very
officer.
stressful.
You have an outside life, which people, like us, again, tend to forget. You have a family, you have your own interests, your own hobbies, and now you want this guy to get a smaller salary and take on jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most underappreciated jobs out there.
Yeah. 1000%. I mean, again, when I was a kid, you get caught into that what's cool and fuck the police mentality as a teenager, especially if you're, I was a good kid, but I was a little bit of a punk sometimes too. I got into trouble, you know what I mean? Whatever it was. I never did many immoral things, but some things that were, that would get me into trouble as a kid, fighting and whatnot, stupid stuff like that. And it was always, whenever I interacted with the cops, it was always, I did something wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't look at it at the time. It was these fucking assholes or whatever derogatory word I wanted to use. But 99% of the time, it was because I deserved to get in trouble. I just didn't want to deal with the consequences of my actions.
And that goes back to accountability.
Yeah. Once I got old enough to realize, like, okay, like, these guys are doing a job, and their job is to stop people like me, like what you're doing, from doing what you're doing. And it's like, okay, who should you really be mad at?
Yeah.
It's your own decision making that led to this altercation.
Yep.
Led to you were speeding. That's why the cop pulled you over. He didn't just not like you. I get dickhead cops too, though. Sometimes,
Of course,
like anything. It's
we
like,
all do. I get it too.
yeah. So
I get it too still to this day.
but I think there's an interesting racial component that goes in there that people attribute motive a lot of times, just because it's just, I think in my opinion, it's just an easy way to kind of blanket situations. Because my group of friends is very diverse as far as race, religion, occupation. I'm cool with anybody who's cool. And a lot of my black friends will say to me, like, you don't understand what it's like to get pulled over and harassed. And I just look at them and I say, do you think that the cop's happy to pull over a Tiffany Rolls Royce and then the window goes down and it's my mug in there? You know what I mean? Dressed like this, whatever it is. I don't give off the best first impression. And they're not, most of the time, I'm not treated nicely when I get pulled over. But I'm respectful. I'm respectful in the pull over. I was taught at a young age the proper way to get pulled over. I think more people need to learn this. So I'll put out the step-by-step instruction right now, just so that maybe one day someone could avoid a ticket and avoid an escalation of a situation by just handling it the right way.
Let's hear it.
Most of the videos I see, it's like this could have been avoided 28 times if somebody would have just pulled the brakes at one point in this interaction. When I get pulled over, and sometimes I pull myself over. If I go by a cop, I know I'm going too fast. Before he even puts his lights on, I pull myself over, which is always a big help to people because they appreciate the fact that I can maybe chase you.
Yeah.
But let's just say light goes on. I don't even know it at this point. I pull my car over. I lower all of my windows. I put the car in park, turn the car off. I put the keys on the roof of the car, all the lights on, music off. I take my license, my registration, my PBA card, my badge, whatever I have it in my hands with my hands on the steering wheel. So when they come over to the car, there is zero reason to be nervous. You know what I mean? You have to understand the mind of, I'm not lecturing you because I'm sure you can speak to this a lot better than I can, but to anyone listening, you have to understand this cop has no idea who you are, what you're doing, what's in the car, who's in the car. So for me, my whole job at that point is to make sure the cop realizes, like, I'm respecting him. I'm making his job easier and making him feel at ease.
Absolutely.
And that way, when they come to the car, there's no couple seconds where I'm fidgeting through my glove box or my side looking for something. He has to wonder, what am I reaching for? And, my windows are down, so he doesn't have to think what's behind those tints, who's behind those tints. You know what I mean? The keys are on the roof. He knows I'm about to pull off in the middle of the situation. And majority of the time, I have cops all the time ask me when I get pulled over, who do you know? Before they even see the PBA card, because that, just being pulled over like that makes them know, like, okay, he knows what he's doing. Someone must have told him this is what helps and this is what makes people at ease. And I, a lot of times, get out of tickets just because of the way I handle it with respect.
Yeah.
A lot of times my car gets pulled over just for the car itself, tints or whatever the situation is. But if you're not a dick.
Yeah. 9 out of 10 times you're going to get up with a warning.
Sometimes I get a dick cop who had a bad day or doesn't like me for whatever reason. He writes a ticket anyway. But a lot of that can be avoided by just following that simple little protocol.
I follow that protocol even when I get pulled over. Aside from the keys on the roof, everything you mentioned, lower my music, all my windows down, have my stuff ready. And, like you said, 9 out of 10 times, you're going to get off. But
not being abrasive.
You're gonna run into, sometimes you're going to run into a dickhead.
And it happens. I mean, if you look up the Josh, if you could Google real quick, how many people die in America every year from medical malpractice? The number dwarfs and police shootings by, factors of probably thousands. And no one walks around saying, fuck doctors.
Correct.
Even someone like Kanye West, who lost his own mother to a medical, accident pretty much. I don't think he walks around saying, fuck doctors. Right? It's this weird thing we do when for some reason, cops get blanketed more than anybody I've ever seen.
Agreed.
So,
and there's a lot of
according
cops.
to the article from the Journal of American Medical Association, as many as 225,000 people die each year from medical malpractice. Now, that is more than the virus killed this year.
Almost 250,000.
Every single year. And there's no protests. There's no fuck the doctors movement. There's no defund the hospital movement. So it's just super interesting that for some reason the perspective, I guess because it's, I hate to use the word sexy, but I guess it's sensational when a police involved shooting happens. But we want to bury the whole group.
Yeah.
225,000 people a year.
That's a lot of unnecessary deaths.
Yeah. And like I said, and nobody hates doctors. They're still revered in our society.
There's bad in every profession.
Everything.
In every part of society, there's bad. But like you said, cops for some reason, get painted with that broad stroke more than anyone.
Well, broad generalizations are the tool of the lazy and ignorant, right? So it's just what a oversimplification of something as complex as life to label an entire group of people. I don't care what it is. When you start a sentence off by saying cops are, or white people are, or black people are, you already lost me. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. Like there's zero nuance in that statement. And it just goes to show you where your head's at. We need a lot less than that. A lot more human interactions like this is right here. And people learning that there's a person behind the badge.
There's a heartbeat behind the badge for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you see these videos, I mean, obviously the election went, I guess, the way of the people who were planning on being disruptive. But when you see something like New York City being boarded up preemptively for an election.
Yeah, it's sad.
How does that make you feel as a cop?
It's sad. And I mean, that...
Are tensions high around like the precinct, around like the, within the network, within the officers, November 2nd, day before the election, is the morale, is the energy at the precinct that completely different?
Well, I think, every couple of years, police become the target of violence more than in previous years.
One national story kicks it off usually.
Yeah.
Michael Brown a few years ago, this year George Floyd.
Correct. So when things like that happen, everyone's on edge. Everyone's nervous. Everyone's, on
Which
high
probably
alert.
leads to more mistakes.
Yes and no. Sometimes it leads to cops being too passive, because they don't want to make a mistake.
Yeah, well, that's another unintended consequence of this. I mean, I saw it during the riots in July, post George Floyd. I mean, I drove through Manhattan that night and just watched all over the country. People were told to stand down. Cops told to stand down.
Yeah.
As they're ransacking businesses.
Yeah. I mean, there's a task force that was created to address the looting and all that.
That got created this year?
Yeah. So they're definitely not
Inside
standing down.
information.
Yeah, they're definitely not standing down when it comes to looting. The job is ready for it if it does happen. But, everyone gets on high alert. And like you said, sometimes mistakes happen. But I think it also causes cops to be too passive.
How can you blame them? It creates a tough dynamic.
Yeah.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Especially with the new bills that were passed, the diaphragm law.
What's that? I'm sure I don't know what that is.
So there was a new bill that was passed that if you put any part of your body on someone's diaphragm, you can be legally charged for assault.
It's like what they do to the NFL now. Like you can't hit a quarterback anywhere between like this little space right here. When you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're trying to sack them. How do they
And
want?
it's just not realistic.
Yeah. What do they expect?
It's not realistic.
You have somebody who's resisting, flailing around. A human. It's not like a dummy.
No.
This is a human with with every intention of getting away from it.
It's not realistic at all.
I feel like that's something that would also probably lead to escalated uses of force. You're limiting the hand-to-hand capabilities of somebody.
Agreed.
Another short-sighted fix that actually makes the intended, what you're trying to accomplish actually works against it.
Correct.
What do you think the way out of this is? What do you like other than jujitsu and that kind of stuff? That would take a complete radical culture change as far as the way we view allocating funds, the police, everything. What else can we do to mitigate the situation so they're not happening? So, and I know, like we said, there's 800,000 cops, millions upon millions of interactions every year. It's never going to go away 100%. Saying end police shootings is like saying we want world peace. Yeah, no shit. Everybody does. But there's just a law of large numbers that things are going to happen, things are going to go bad. But to limit it as much as possible, what do you see in your eyes as things that we could do as a society around the culture and the training that goes into it that would help the situation?
So like you said, it's never going to go away.
Never.
I mean, there's.
I mean, look at 225,000 people a year from malpractice.
Yeah. So it'll never go away. Simply because, people are going to resist arrest. People are going to be armed with firearms and deadly weapons. People are going to,
bad luck too. That things just go wrong.
Correct.
Someone falls the wrong way.
People are going to chase cops. With deadly weapons. People are going to use deadly physical force against cops. And listen, I'm not saying that cops are always right, because there are situations where cops are completely wrong and they should go to prison, like the George Floyd incident. I was one of the first ones to go on social media and condemn those actions. And
that's important too.
Correct.
I think people have this this notion of that, what do they call it, the thin blue line or whatever, and they have like the brothers mentality where no one wants to tell on each other or whatever the situation may be, and people may be hesitant to come out against a fellow officer. Which I think to some extent, like until you have all the facts, the problem is everyone rushes to judgment the second you see the video without collecting all the evidence.
Correct.
I think that Jacob Blake situation was a little bit like that, where like it looked really bad on camera and still probably was not the right way to go. But when you learn the factors beforehand, before the camera starts rolling, sometimes it changes the way the whole thing kind of looks.
Correct. Yeah. I mean,
but like it is important that like someone like yourself who says like, hey, like I'm not for that. Like, don't think because I'm a cop that I think it's just acceptable for anything to happen.
No.
That's bullshit. I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important too.
I'm human before anything.
Yeah.
And I always stand with what's right and I'm against what's wrong. So if a cop is out of line, I'm gonna say, that's horrible. You shouldn't be doing that. There was a shooting in, I think, South Carolina where the cop shot someone that was running away. That's completely wrong. That guy should go to jail for murder. He should go to prison.
There's zero reason. I guess unless he's carrying a gun and running towards school children, there's zero reason
you can't
to ever
justify
shoot someone in the back.
Yeah, you can't justify it. I mean, the guy was literally running away. So there's situations that happen that I'm 100% against, but then there's situations where I'm 100% in favor of what the cop did.
And what I like about you is you never waver. No matter what the popular opinion is, you're giving your truth on how you see it, no matter what.
You gotta
respect about you.
You gotta feel comfortable in your truth, right? You can't just cater to what people want to hear.
No,
because then you're a phony, you're a fake. And I'm 100% for my tribe, and my tribe is my wife and my children. And you know, I'm always gonna keep it 1,000%, whether you like it or not. And I respect people that also keep it 1,000%. And I think we need more of that in society.
A lot more.
You know,
I mean, why would you want someone to like you about things that aren't even your own opinions?
Yeah.
Like if you're faking your opinion on something and they like you for that, they don't even really like you.
Yeah. But to go back to your question on how do you fix it, I really don't have an answer. I don't know how to fix it. I mean, there's a lot of people that are way smarter than I am that probably are trying to find solutions to that problem as we speak. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is because every situation is completely different. It's not like you could train for it, you know, because every single scenario is different.
There's a million variables.
There's a million variables. I'm going to handle a situation different from the way you would. You know, if we put a gun belt on you and a radio and you handle the job, you're going to handle it different than I would, most likely. Different than how he is. Different how, you know, so to answer that question, I don't know, and that's my honest answer. I don't know how to fix that.
I don't know why I was hoping you were going to solve all the problems of law enforcement in one quick sentence, but it's tough, man. I don't envy the job, and that's why I respect the shit out of it because, I mean, there's nothing harder right now. I mean, imagine just for a second, imagine yourself risking your life every day, showing up to pretty much exclusively bad situations. Yeah. The cops don't get called to places because something good's going on. They're there because something horrible happened. Someone had to feel so endangered that they had to call for help. And now you are that help showing up to a situation when you have no idea what's going on. Yeah. You got to piece everything together on the fly. And you're showing up and everybody hates you. Everybody's lying to you, which has got to be a super... I'm super fascinated with psychology. And so I'm doing online coaching now for, training, dieting, the whole nine. This whole COVID thing, people need more help, and people need it virtually now. For sure. Can't really see in person. Yep. So when I call people who respond to my ad, the psychology is fascinating that people answer the phone and they immediately start lying to me. And they think their lies are so believable and unique, but I hear the same lies all day. So it reminds me of I imagine how my school teachers probably looked at me when I was in grade school, making excuses for why I don't have the homework. Yeah. It's like, I haven't heard that 38 times today, John. But I go through that and I can only imagine is that heightened when almost everybody that you run into and encounter is lying to you as a cop. They're trying to avoid getting in trouble. They're lying about what they just did, the story, who's got it, who did it, where it was. They're all lying to you. It's part of that cat and mouse game. Yeah. So, but now, put yourself in that position where all day long you're being lied to by everybody, and it's almost like then when someone is telling you the truth, you're not gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. You got to figure out what's going on. Like, how does that mess with your head when you show up to a scene, and now you got to figure most of the people there who have the risk of getting in trouble are lying to you. Like, I think the energy. Yeah, definitely read the energy. But you also go in there with an open mind. Even though someone lied to you, 15 minutes prior doesn't mean that the next person's going to lie to you. So I think just going in there with an open... You're a better guy than me. I don't know if I could do that. Yeah, going in there with an open mind. It's like car stops, right? You pull over, a Tiffany Rolls Royce. The guy... Who's this asshole? Yeah, the guy driving that car is going to be completely different from the person driving the next car. So I think it's important to stay grounded and just treat every scenario as a new experience, because it's totally... It takes a lot of patience, it sounds like. I mean, that job is... I think it comes down to being humble, right? We're as corny as it sounds, we're public servants. Yeah. And the key word in that is servant. So we're serving the public. And I think a lot of us lose sight of what that truly means. It's a calling. People are going to call us in the worst of times. When they just got beat up, when they just got robbed, when their house just got burglarized. At their lowest. They just got shot. They just got stabbed. They're at their lowest, And I think it's important to remain humble and remember
why you took this job. A lot of cops take the job for the wrong reason, and
You see that firsthand.
of course, ego,
Power.
power. A lot of cops do that, but there's hundreds of thousands of cops that do it for the right reason. And I work with a ton of those cops. I'm very thankful and grateful and honored that I get to lead a group of people that just want to serve. I see it every day in their eyes. I see it in their actions. They just want to serve. They want to do the right thing by people. They continuously create events to interact with the public. They continuously serve the public. A lot of them mentor youth. And these are things that don't get exposed. That's why I appreciate a show, a podcast like this, where you're giving us a platform.
Yeah, man. I want to highlight good people doing good shit.
Yeah.
There's plenty of attention getting put to all the wrong places. We need more people like you doing more of these community. I think that's the big thing too, is you hear a lot of complaining about police not being from the community.
Yeah.
And being police from people from the outside. And I think that it's impossible to have only people from that neighborhood in the force. I'm sure just logistically that wouldn't work out. But if you're interacting with the people more, like you said, like the mentor programs, going to the parks, walking the beat, interact with the store owners, people on the street, if you're not seen as some Gestapo force and you're seen as a member of the community, it just makes people have a little bit of a rapport with you. And maybe they won't act so hostile to you when you have an interaction you don't need to have, or unfortunately, you need to be called upon.
Yeah, having officers strictly from the same neighborhood is just not realistic.
Yeah. In a perfect world, we don't live in that.
Correct. It is a culture shock for a lot of officers that let's say come from Suffolk County. Some of them, some were in my company and never interacted with a minority before.
Well, that's always be the funniest part, because like you're saying, like the Fulton Mall. So I got a picture of 16-year-old me, 18-year-old me, 19-year-old me in the Fulton Mall and Jamaica Ave. I used to run into people months or years later, and they'd be like, "I know you," and I'm like, "How?" You used to shop at Jamaica Ave, right? And I'm like, "Yeah," and I stick out like a sore thumb, like a white boy on the block.
Yeah.
And people are like, and normally it's like a 40-year-old heavy-set Irish guy who's talking to me about it, and obviously I stick out. He's sticking out in that area.
Yeah.
So
what years were you down there?
Like I started going to Jamaica Avenue like 2004, 2005, and J Street 2004, 2005. Probably like 04, 05 to like 10. Yeah.
That's when I was there. I probably chased you. No, I'm kidding.
I didn't do anything. I wasn't at that point. I was beyond my punk stage at that point. I was
I'm messing with you.
Shopping for counterfeit True Religion jeans that cost $300. They were $20 on the block.
You bought them from one of the guys that I know.
Right in front of the sneakers. So I just open up a big ass like banquet table.
Fulton and Jay.
Yeah, and I just have all the jeans laid out. We go there, buy a new pair of Air Force Ones, a fitted.
I think that was right by
some cheap jewelry.
I think Applebee's was around the corner. Right on the corner they would sell.
Yep.
Yeah, they would go right by the photo. I mean by the phone booth.
And forever they had the building they were in front of was under construction, so it had the scaffolding. Out front. That's where it used to hang underneath.
We had cameras on Fulton, so we can see everything.
It's so funny.
There was a booth right in the middle of Fulton Street, and we would go on the camera and just zoom in, and we'd know that there was a sale, and then it was an easy,
That's funny. I never actually saw anybody really getting the chops busted over there. As far as like the people selling on the street, it was pretty business as usual.
Beltman was down there. Remember Beltman?
Yep. Yeah.
That was right in front of Jimmy Jazz.
Louis belts.
Yep.
Yeah, I used to buy those too.
Yeah.
Before you can afford
all the rhinestones.
Those days, that was like what were those clothes called? What was that clothing brand? Like Affliction was big back then, and Ed Hardy, that gross shit that was cool for a while. But yeah, I used to take the train down there, and my parents were always like, "What the fuck are you doing over there? You stick out like a sore thumb."
That was my first precinct. That was my first precinct.
Downtown.
Yep.
So you've seen that able change too.
Oh, it's completely different.
Afford to live there.
Yeah, it's completely
insane
different.
The prices now.
All the high rises went up.
Crazy.
Designer stores are now down there and completely changed the landscape of that area.
I wonder how, because I haven't been there in a while. I haven't been to Jamaica Ave either, but I wonder how they got hit with this whole shutdown. Those are all small businesses, family owned businesses. A lot of Pakistani owned, like the sneaker stores and stuff like that. They got to be getting their ass kicked right now too.
Yeah, definitely.
How is I try not to get into it or say the buzzwords too much, but how has this whole pandemic situation affected policing? Because I know the one time I had gotten pulled over recently, trooper came up to my car with the mask and was kind of like sitting a little back. Does that make the interactions even more challenging now?
Originally, when the pandemic started, obviously car stops were far and few between, because nobody knew, this novel
And no
virus.
one's on the road either.
Yeah, no one was on the road. Mostly first responders or healthcare workers were on the road. But as we learned more about it, I mean, people got more lax, and now it's normal to see car stops.
Is there like an extra protocol when you're arresting somebody? Like you have to, like, is it touching someone? Is there gloves on? How does it work now?
No, I mean, it's to your own discretion. If you want to wear gloves, you wear gloves. Anytime I knew I was going to go hands on with someone, I always put on gloves just because I didn't want to get cut, in case the person resisted arrest or whatever, and, you protect your hands. But right now with the pandemic, I'm in a position where I'm not making arrests or writing summonses, or I'm doing strictly things that connect with the community. And that's where my passion is. That's what I've always been about. I mean, I was an active cop. I love cops and robbers. So if you were breaking the law and I was out there, I was,
Challenge.
that's it.
It seems like almost being a cop was almost a means to an end for you. Like you had the greater vision of wanting to interact with the community, do good, mentor people. Like that was, and being a police officer was almost how you got there.
Yeah,
Is that
for sure.
accurate?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely was the gateway. It opened up so many doors for me.
I don't think a lot of people see it like that. I think that that's something special about you, is that I don't think most people, align being an officer with that community service aspect. And if more people that wanted to do good for the community realized they could do so through being a police officer, we'd probably have more people signing up for the job and better qualified people to be in that position.
Yeah, I've gotten a ton of messages of people on Instagram that said, you inspired me to become a police officer, and I took the test, and now I'm in the academy. I've gotten tons. I got one this week.
Isn't that amazing?
Week. It feels great. I mean, I don't believe it, that I'm in that position, that I'm inspiring people to take a career.
You are, brother.
And it's very humbling, and I'm telling you, man, when I get messages like that, it reaffirms that I'm doing the right thing. It reaffirms.
There's nothing more motivating than somebody else telling you that you're motivating them.
Yeah.
It's this funny little thing that goes on where someone hits you up, and I get messages, and I'm sure nowhere near like you do. I get people saying like, man, I just love to see you going after it. Like whatever it is, you going after this or that, or you're in shape. I want to get in shape. You're firing me up. And then that makes me fired up. Yeah. Now I'm feeding off your energy. We're feeding off each other. Now I'm going to the gym on 10.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm firing people up. All right,
let's
go. Let's keep doing it. I'm on the right track.
There's been times where I've gotten down, I've gotten down on myself, and I'll get a message out of the blue, Lieutenant Mike, I was going through some stuff, and I looked at your page and a couple of your posts, and you inspired me to just keep going, and you inspired me to become a police officer, or there's one guy that came all the way from Chicago. I inspired him to become an NYPD officer. He came from Chicago.
Wow.
True story. I'm still friends with him now. His name is Mike, and he goes, I know you're Lieutenant Mike, but I'm Officer Mike now.
Shout out Chi-Town's own Officer Mike.
Yeah, man. Amazing guy. I love this guy, and I've had the privilege to speak to every graduating class of recruits for the last 4 years, which is thousands of recruits. And I always share the same message, man. A lot of what we're speaking about today, giving back to the community, treating people like humans, putting yourself in their shoes. If you pull somebody over, you can give them a break, and it's okay. There's plenty of jerks out there that deserve summonses. Treat people the way you want your mother, your father, your sister, your brother to be treated.
Because that is somebody's father, sister, brother,
correct,
son. Yeah,
correct.
I think it's important to remember.
When they see a lieutenant standing in front of them preaching this, and when I expose my life to them, I talk about my downfalls, my divorce, meeting my wife, my family, and they see all these things, and they see that I'm still successful in what I do, and then I remain humble. It inspires them to want to do more.
They can see themselves in your shoes. They can align themselves with some part of your journey that they're at now.
Correct.
Okay, I'm in a dark spot. So was he.
Correct. I went through a lot with my mom being sick. She was sick my entire life. She had a ton of complications, rheumatoid arthritis, problems with her lungs, problems with her bones, like osteoporosis and all that other just horrible stuff. But anyways, I was no stranger to the hospital. She was always in and out of the hospital. And 2005, she gets sick again, and we rush her to the hospital. She loses consciousness. She's on the gurney, and a machine is breathing for her. A machine is pumping her heart because her heart had stopped functioning. Jeez. Her blood started clotting up in her leg. And at that time, I didn't have a relationship with God. I didn't know who God was. I had never prayed before in my life. And the doctor comes out and she says, your mother's going to pass away tonight. Just like that. She goes, your mother's going to die tonight. And it was the hardest pill I ever had to swallow. At 25 years old, to hear that my mother, my hero, my best friend was going to die was the hardest thing I ever heard. And I went to she says, call your family, have everyone come down because she's not making it past the night. So I go to the parking lot, Booth Memorial Hospital, where I was born.
Where's that?
That's in Flushing.
Okay.
And I called my aunt and I said, mommy's going to pass away. You got to get here. And a gentleman walks over to me. He's wearing a janitor's outfit. His name is Peter. And he says, do you need to use the chapel? We have a chapel inside. And I said, no, I'm good. And I'm crying. At this point, I'm crying. Like tears are rolling down my face. And I said, no, I'm good. He goes, you sure? We have a chapel right inside. And I said, no, I'm good. So he walks away. I go back inside. Doctor comes back out a couple hours later, says, listen, it's not looking good. Do you want us to call a priest to read her last rites? So she was intubated, and a priest came. And again, I didn't have a relationship with God. I could care less what the priest was saying because I didn't know about God. So the priest reads her last rites. He goes. A couple hours pass by. Doctor comes out and says, listen, do you want us to keep working on her? Because, the machines are keeping her alive. Do you want us to just let her pass? And at the time, I had seen my mother suffer so much that I was ready. I wasn't ready mentally to let her go. But physically for her, I was like, I wanted to end the suffering. But my dad luckily was there. Shout out to my dad. He said, no, keep working on her. So they did. They kept working on her. And a couple more hours go by. And the doctor comes back out and she says, listen, why don't you go home for a few hours, get some rest, come back early in the morning. So we did that. We went home. As soon as I walk in my room, I started crying harder than I ever cried before. Just that cry that you get from your diaphragm, like where you can't breathe, right? And for the first time in my life, I said a prayer. I said, God, if you save my mother, I will dedicate my life to you. And all of a sudden, a calm sensation came over my body. Like someone had just placed a blanket over my shoulders. And I stopped crying immediately. I fell asleep. I woke up the next morning. I go to the hospital. I go to the ICU. And I get past the first room, and it's like this old lady in the room. I get to the second room, and it's like an old man in there. I get to the third room, and the blinds are closed. And I get to the door, and I see two of my mother's friends. They're talking to somebody in the room. And as soon as I break that door entry, I see my mother. She's sitting up in her bed, wide awake. And I just fell to my knees. I started thanking God. I started crying again.
Jesus.
And she's like, she couldn't talk. She was intubated. She's like, calm down. So I leave the room, and I'm crying. For weeks, she was in the hospital. Anywhere I went in that hospital, I saw Peter. If I went to the cafeteria, I saw Peter. If I went to the bodega, I saw Peter. I went to the parking lot, I saw Peter. Not sure what he has to do with this story, but he sparked the interest, right? And ever since that day, so that was October of 2005. November comes around, Thanksgiving. It was my first taste of philanthropy. And I never put it together until right now. I'm like, wow, this is where it was birthed, right? So that November, I'm on 74th Street in Roosevelt, giving out food for Thanksgiving and sharing my testimony. in the rain, like it was pouring rain, and I'm standing out there shivering, giving out food, seeing how people are in need. They're so grateful and talking about God, right? And I'm not the type of person that shoves God into somebody's life and just shoves it down your throat. I'm the type of person that I want to show through my actions. So there's something different about me when I'm out there. There's something different about me, the way I interact with people. And I wear it on my sleeve, like, I'm tatted up. Most of my tattoos are spiritual in nature. But my mom, she lived 3 extra years. She passed away in 2008, and God gave me those 3 years with my mom, man. And I got to tell you, a lot of us take people for granted. And I think we get distracted with everything that's going on in life, right? Politics, police brutality, all these hot topics that are in the news. We get distracted from what's really important, what's at the root of our lives. And that's family. That's love. And family doesn't necessarily mean blood. It could be something like this where we meet and now all of a sudden you're my brother, right? Those are the important relationships in life. And as long as we keep putting out that positivity, as long as we keep focusing on what's important, our Northern Star, which is our purpose in life.
I like that.
We'll never go wrong.
Positive human interactions is the name of the game. That is what's important.
That's the only thing that's important, because one day, so I'll give you this, right? If you're a believer, that one day you're going to get to heaven, right? And what I want to happen, right, is for God to show you what you could have been and God to show you what you are. And my goal is to be as close as possible to what I could have been.
It's a scary thought for a lot of people, myself included.
That's where I want to be.
Because most people don't reach their potential.
Most people don't. Most people die and they never share their gift. And all of us, everyone in this room has a gift, right? We all have a gift to share with the world. Whatever it is, everyone has a gift, whether it's art, athletics, policing, teachers, nurses. Everyone has a gift. Bringing people together, everyone has a gift in life. Photography, we were just talking about that earlier. Photography, videography, everyone has a gift. You got to share that with the world, because if you take it with you, you wasted your entire life. We're all going to die. We all have an expiration date.
That's right.
Every one of us. So why waste time with the nonsense? Just love people. Do the right thing. As cliche as it sounds, man. Like you said, there's truth in every cliche.
Corniest stuff's always the truest stuff.
It's always the truest.
And it's only corny because you hear it so many times. And you only hear it so many times because it's so true.
Correct.
But yeah, I agree with that 100%. I agree with that. And I try to reaffirm that myself all the time. When you find yourself, even for a second, drifting negative or drifting ungrateful or unappreciative of the current life, where you're focusing on what you don't have instead of what you do have.
So I shared that story. Sorry to cut you off. I shared that story because it's a testimony that I share with the recruits, right? And 10 out of 10 times, there's recruits in the audience that are bawling because they can relate to that story. They can relate to having a sick parent or a deceased parent or a deceased relative.
Someone whose time they got cut short with.
Correct. They can relate to that story, or it makes them more appreciative of their living, family members.
Yeah.
So every part of my story that I share, someone can relate to it.
100%.
We all have a story. We all have a life story. And listen, we've all been through shit and gotten through it.
And your story's not as unique as you want to think.
Correct.
Everybody thinks their pains and their problems are so special and unique.
And that's my message.
We all go through the same shit.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We all got to put our pants on one leg at a time in the morning. We all get depressed. We all get down on ourselves. We all second guess ourselves. The difference is who lets it crush them and who lets it drive them.
Man, this shit drives me.
Yeah, same.
When I see pain coming, I'm like, there's a blessing coming.
And embrace it.
I embrace it. I just don't
That's when the growth happens.
Yep. I don't let the water get in the boat. Like you said, there's no good sailor that hasn't sailed the rough sea.
Yeah.
So calm seas.
Good sailors.
Correct. So as long as you don't let that water get inside your boat, you're good. It could be going crazy around you, but as long as you don't let it,
this too shall pass.
Yeah.
It just, and those hard times are what makes you. You'd never be the man you are right now if you didn't have to go through that with your mother. You wouldn't have found faith the way you did. You wouldn't be as appreciative, like I said before, of your son if you didn't go through that hardship. And if you hadn't been in a car and had your night ruined by a cop who may or may not have been a dick to your friend, I forget exactly how that story was played out, you might not be a cop right now.
Yeah.
That one interaction shaped the rest of your life.
Well, that one interaction led me to the person that changed my life, my whole life. And at the time, you know, not to get too personal, but my dad, and I've been personal throughout this whole interview, but
And that's what it's about. People want to see that real. That's real.
you know, my dad, love him to death. You know, he's one of my best friends, but growing up, he wasn't always around. You know, he had his distraction, he had his vices, and him not being there always is what led me to be the father that I am, right? I never miss one of my kids' sports games. I never miss his parent teachers. I never miss anything having to do with my kids. I'm my son's coach, football coach, basketball coach, anything. And
because good or bad, he's an example.
Correct.
He was an example for you.
And he played his part, right? He played his part in my life. Because he was like that, I never want to do that to my child. You know, he wasn't at my high school graduation, you know, but he was going through stuff. And I don't ever fault him. I don't ever blame him. I don't ever hold it against him.
He's human.
Because he changed his life. You know, now he's like the best grandfather ever to my kids. You know, you've seen him on my page. He loves my kid. My kids love him. He's always getting them gifts, gets me diapers. Like I haven't bought diapers in like 3 years because my dad's always buying diapers.
He's on it.
You know, so I say that to say this: don't hold grudges. You know, because people do change, and whatever they did to you, use it for fuel. Use it to change you. You know, don't use it as an excuse.
Nah, life's too short for that.
Yeah,
You know, you're gonna have people that do you wrong all the time. If you change who you are because someone else doing something to you, you're only shorting the people who are yet to receive the gifts of your vibrant personality or whatever it is you have to bring to this world.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I love what you're doing. I really want to get involved in this basketball project.
Let's do it, man.
Yeah.
Linden Park.
Yeah, I got to think of how anyone has any ideas out there how we can bring this to fruition. We need to come up with an idea to get that basketball court done by any means necessary.
It's already done. We put it out there, man.
Yeah.
Like you said, you have a vision.
We're gonna figure it out. Now you got to backfill the idea to make it happen.
Yeah.
That's dope. Awesome. Well, I think that's a good place to actually leave it at. I think I enjoyed this conversation a lot. I hope that people can see here that cops are people too. I know it's ridiculous. I even have to say that out loud, but here I'm having a conversation with a cool ass guy right now, a humble guy, a giving guy who just so happens to also be a police officer. And what that says about him, in my opinion, I only see the great things that go along with it. I see someone who gives back to his community, who's, like he says, a public servant, who helps people, who's there for people in need, not only philanthropically, but on a day-to-day basis. Even if he's not answering calls now, he's organizing everybody that does answer the calls. He's putting the plays in motion that are responding to people who are in trouble and are in need. And I think we lose sight of that a lot. I think if we start looking at cops more like firefighters and less like military, I think the better off we are, because they are there to help. And I don't care who the fuck you are. If you're sitting out there saying, fuck the police, but you get in trouble and you call 911, you got to look yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
I don't know many people who get into a bad spot and wouldn't call 911. A lot of tough guys out there who say, I'll never call it. Come on.
A lot of people talk a good game.
You're in a bad enough spot. You're going to hit those 3 numbers on your phone so goddamn fast. You know what I mean? And, you all got to you keep it 100,
and we'll be answering that call every single time.
And yeah, I've never heard, I don't know anybody personally who's ever called 911 that didn't show up. So that speaks volumes of kind of people that do the job. It speaks volumes about you. I appreciate everything that you do. You're a motivation to me for sure. I put you in that same category as far as how I look at people that I aspire to be like. You're a giving person, a family guy, and everything that I think that people nowadays should aspire to be like.
I appreciate that, man.
And I mean that wholeheartedly. Anybody, like I said, who's listening, who wants to get involved in anything that he's doing, as far as the mentor program, either monetarily or time-wise, with the Linden Park project, building up this basketball court, the turkey drive tomorrow in Yonkers, in Corona, and I don't know what other places it's going to, but we could put the links below.
I think Harlem is another spot.
You can find your closest or dearest place that you'd want to help out. It's a great cause. Families are getting dinner on Thanksgiving who otherwise wouldn't have had this kind of a dinner. Reach out to me or Lieutenant Mike, and see if you could help out. Thank you very much for
Appreciate
coming on,
you.
man. And we'll definitely do this again, man.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Awesome.